But as I found on the internet, what happens is the first wave is always amazing. And then it takes a day, and then the second wave comes in, and that's when it kind of disseminates out to either haters or the skeptical or people who are just mad that we're doing it. And then, quickly I saw the dislike numbers were going up very fast. This seemed disproportionately high and fast going up.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
I've said from day one, I get that there is a bunch of people who just are trepidatious, nervous, mad that we are doing a reboot or touching this at all. And I completely get that. Those people, I get it. I hear you. I would be nervous too if I didn't know what I was doing with it. And then was the wave of just people who hated that it was women. And that to me is the non-starter. But that was a part of the group. It wasn't everybody. And everybody on the internet has been painting it like I've been saying, if you don't like it, you're against women. I've never said that, ever.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back to pretend.
All I can ask is please just judge the movie on its own merits. Don't judge it off of a trailer. Obviously, I don't fault anybody for judging something off a trailer because that's all they can watch, and a trailer is supposed to be great. My problem with my movies in general is they just don't trailer well. They never have. If you look at all my trailers, because my comedy, going back to our first thing, is behavioral.
The power of pain compels you!
We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk about films past, present and future. And this podcast, it's going to get everywhere, like in every single crack. What's Maddie? You're not laughing. You must be a bigot. Well, I'd like to introduce. First off, we have a special guest for this episode. You may know him as Aristotle Full Throttle from his YouTube channel of the same name, or you might also know him if you see my Star Wars video as the voice of Anakin Skywalker, Qui-Gon Jinn, Prince Valium, like a million other ones. He's the man of 1,000 different voices. He is Aristotle Dreyer. Hi, Aristotle.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. This is very exciting. I'm all fired up. I'm ready to talk Ghostbusters whenever. Let's do it.
Filling in for Trey on very short notice. And of course, we have the man who is now officially the man who absolutely crushed all his competition in the film festival he is. Sorry, Trilbee, I forgot to ask you what the name of the film festival is.
It was the Awardio.
Awardio, that's it, yes. It is, of course, Trilbee. Congratulations, Trilbee, on that too.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the video earlier. There was a massive jump up in the votes when you did your video on the subject, making my dreams come true.
Yeah.
The film beat the nearest competitor by about 3 times the amount of votes, which it wasn't just a thing where you put a thing on a website and people vote for it. There is like a vetting process where they do filter out all of the results. So it's not an entirely hollow victory, but a win is a win. And
it's fine. I went and looked and you were already ahead by like 70 votes or something. So you were set to win anyway. So you're already the legitimate winner. And plus,
we got 320 votes, and the second place was like 103 votes.
Yeah, and that 103 didn't change over the whole time. No. So you were already the winner. And I watched the other ones, and they were kind of boring, to be honest.
There were a few good ones there, but the reaction to the film was really positive. It wasn't just, the film is terrible, but we'll vote for it anyway. Thankfully, my viewers and fans are a lot more honest. They're sort of, I'm not voting for your film, Trilbee. It was rubbish, and I'm grateful to have that audience. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I think I watched the others. Like the others, they had fancy special effects and all that stuff. I mean, obviously, your story didn't require a lot of fancy special effects because it was retelling something that actually happened in real life. But theirs just wasn't engaging, but yours was engaging right from the beginning. It actually got people's emotions. It was like it's like someone retelling a bar story.
Yeah.
So did you win an award or something for that?
Yes, I'm wondering whether or not I'm now an award-winning filmmaker, or if I made an award-winning film. I think it's the latter, because the award doesn't have my name on it. I get like a certificate, and I can put the awardio emblem on the poster or whatever. It is basically bragging rights. It's not like a cash prize or anything, but no, it's good. And I think for my first proper stab at a short film, I think it's okay. I think it turned out well, and I look forward to the next one.
Totally.
So,
All right.
Awesome.
Let me pull up the news. Okay, so now that's out of the way, Trilby, we need to get set fighting with each other because everyone's been anticipating a Batman v Superman level showdown between you and me over Ghostbusters, which in reality will probably just be kind of like a Civil War kind of thing where we go, agree to disagree.
Well, people expect it to be this massive WWE showdown, like you're John Cena, I'm The Rock. People want this huge thing. So, Bandit, what do you think about Movie Mania Civil War?
I saw someone in the comments of...
It doesn't matter what you think!
I walked right into that, didn't I? No, I saw someone in the comment section was like, this would be like Bandit v Trilbee Dawn of Movie Mania, and he's got you as like saying, we have to save McCarthy, and then there's me going, why did you say that name? Why did you say that name?
Well, Aristotle's basically Wonder Woman comes in, unites us. One of us. I
love Wonder Woman. Exactly. I'll be the third act that just sweeps in and cuts off the arm. What did she do in the end of Batman versus Superman? She kind of showed up at the end and what's that?
Yeah, she got the lasso and
she got the lasso.
Yeah, she like held him in place, so
Yes.
Totally could have handed that kryptonite spear to Batman and he could have run up and got him. Just saying.
I watched it recently. It's unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
I tried to watch the extended version, and I got about 45 minutes into it before I fell asleep. And then I tried again right after that, and then I got about 30 minutes past that and fell back to sleep. But I don't know.
I finally did finish the ultimate cut, and I do have to say, like, once they include all the extra stuff of Clark Kent, like investigating Batman and all the stuff he's done and all the people he's branded and all that, it does make more sense that Superman doesn't try harder to convince him before the fight, because with all that other stuff he's seen before, he's like, this guy's insane, I'll never get through to him, so I'll just punch his head off. That does make a little bit more sense. So I apologize, Zack Snyder, for that one. But anyway, guys, let's get to the news stories for this month.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
So, guys, Bryan Cranston, I don't know whether you know this or not, but he's playing the floating head of Zordon in the upcoming Power Rangers movie. Good old Bryan Cranston. He's everywhere.
I still don't quite believe that news.
Yeah. Apparently he did the voice of him in the cartoon as well, so he's just continuing to play the character.
Yeah, and he played a few villains, like in the original series. He would voice some of the stupid villains in the costume, and one of the main characters is actually named after him from the original Power Rangers. So he's got a legacy. It's like one of the kids is something Cranston, and the writers loved working with Bryan Cranston, so they thought, we'll name this character after you.
Of course, everyone loves Bryan Cranston. Everyone except for the original Blue Ranger, David Yost. Because for some reason, the original Blue Ranger, David Yost, has dug up some comment in passing that Bryan Cranston made back in 2009 for some reason, where he said that, as a joke, in some kind of joke, he said the Blue Power Ranger is the Fey member of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You think, well, what's even the big deal? Well, apparently the actor is gay.
Sweet burn.
Well, apparently the actor who plays him is gay, so calling them Fey kind of isn't... I didn't even know that is an insult. Is that an insult? What does that even mean?
It's a half insult, maybe? I don't know. I think Bryan Cranston...
ironically used as an insult. Like, that's so Fey.
Yeah.
I've never heard it used as a legitimate insult.
And
come on,
it's probably Bryan Cranston just trying to be funny. It doesn't really sound like it was a major, like he meant anything by it.
Yeah, well, this is what Bryan Cranston said. He said, "To be honest, I don't remember saying that, but I accept that I may have said as Mr. Yost suggests in an attempt at humour. I hear that my impulsive comment hurt someone's feelings, so that makes me feel bad. I accept responsibility for the thoughtless remark and apologise to Mr. Yost and anyone else who may have been offended." He's just joking around. It's Bryan Cranston. He doesn't have a prejudiced bone in his body. Leave him alone.
Yeah, it was a classy response though. Like I believe that he's forgotten it and he didn't, because if you say it in passing and you didn't mean anything by it, then it probably just slip you by. And we've all said stupid things in the past, and we all try to apologise and make things right. And I think Bryan Cranston's doing that as well. So
yeah. Just a clumsy attempt at a joke.
He could always just say that he was in character as Zordon when he was saying that. So, then it's okay, because Zordon's a bad guy.
Way to dodge it.
If they do reshoots for this new Power Rangers, they need a scene where Zordon's like, "Rangers, you must try on your new costumes. Blue Ranger, that costume's so fey."
Wait, I'm confused. When does Captain Planet show up?
You may have just made the Power Rangers cardinal sin right there.
I know. I'm kidding. I love the Power Rangers.
Well,
I love the Power Rangers because I love Voltron, and it's all sort of the same. It's all in sequence, kind of. It seems like a result of those earlier days that I was into.
Right, totally.
More.
Well, Star Trek 4, Star Trek Beyond has, Star Trek 3, Star Trek Beyond has just come out to some early screenings for like critics and that, and they're already giving teasers about what Star Trek 4 might be about. Now, I've got to say, I'm a Star Trek fan. I really had not that much interest in this new one, but this story, combined with some of the reviews coming out saying it's actually pretty good, it's more like the 2009 Star Trek than Star Trek Into Darkness, has got me interested.
Cool.
Here's what they say.
Yeah.
Paramount has said that the studio, in conjunction with Skydance and Bad Robot, has announced that the untitled Star Trek 4 is now in development and have even revealed a quick synopsis of the movie. They've said the following. In the next installment of the epic space adventure, Chris Pine's Captain Kirk will cross paths with the man he never had a chance to meet, but whose legacy has haunted him since the day he was born, his father. Now, you remember in 2009 Star Trek, his dad was played by Chris Hemsworth before anybody knew who Chris Hemsworth was.
Yep.
They've announced that Chris Hemsworth will come back to reprise the role, so we'll get him and Captain Kirk teaming up again, probably through some kind of time travel shenanigans or what have you, which I got to say, I'm
well, he
really
did go through that
interested in.
wormhole, yeah. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, he did go through that wormhole. He didn't really quite see what happened to him, right? Or he did explode, I think. I do remember an image of him blowing up. Or is that...
He flies forward and the ship kind of crashes, but then it goes into the black hole. So, yeah, it could always extract him somehow.
Interesting.
But I got to say, I like that idea, because that has been a running theme throughout these new Star Trek movies, is he's either... following in the footsteps of his dad or trying to match up with his dad. And I'd love it if they could do like a three timeline crossover where like Chris Hemsworth's dad is like Grandpa Kirk, could be William Shatner. Then you could get all three of them together. But that's got me interested. What about you, Trilbee? What do you think?
I hope that it's the subplot of Star Trek 4. I hope it's not the main thrust of the narrative, because if there was one issue with Star Trek Into Darkness, it's that it was relying too much on the past. It was relying too much on nostalgia. And Star Trek Beyond looks, I've not seen it yet, but it looks set to expand the universe. They're exploring new places, going where no man has gone before. If they are incorporating if they are incorporating time travel or these other elements, I hope it's on the back burner. I want them to continue exploring. I want them to continue looking forward, not always looking backwards to Chris Hemsworth, the actual movie star, and Chris Pine, the hopeful movie star. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Because to be fair,
an
like
embarrassment
Chris Pine,
of Chris's.
Yeah, like Chris Pine has gotten a lot better. He's sort of like The Rock, in which he makes a better pretend parody action star than he does an actual action star. Although that was the Rock's definitely changed in recent years. Like he was much better at being the comedic side character, and Chris Pine was really, really funny in Into the Woods. You need to see that. He's hysterically funny. But I think he looks a lot better in Star Trek Beyond. I actually am really looking forward to the film. But I'm just hoping that they don't just rely too much on past glories. They move forward, because this franchise needs to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you recall, the original series was a 5-year mission into space to explore strange new worlds, and the last 2 movies, just like you said, they haven't even gone into space yet.
Yeah, they have yet to trek through the stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
They're
apparently
going
this movie they start to, which is great. Yeah, and there's very little callback. So which is exactly what I wanted to hear as a Star Trek fan.
So here's a guess. Here's just a little random game for us 3. Right? Do you think in Star Trek 4 that the Star Trek Enterprise will be destroyed before the 30-minute mark or after the 30-minute mark?
I think it'll be the first thing that happens.
Right.
What, like in Star Trek and Star Trek Beyond?
It has to. They have to destroy an Enterprise.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah. It seems that it's really important that they just destroy an Enterprise and then just add a new letter on the next version, the 1701 Z. I think we're up to, or Z, as it were.
Yeah,
guys.
It's like
anyone?
In Undiscovered Country, they destroyed the Enterprise, and that was important because that was the same Enterprise they'd had throughout all the other movies and the entire TV series, all seasons of it. So it was a big deal. But like in this new continuity, they blow up the Enterprise every movie. It's like, who cares? You keep doing it. Actually, I don't think it blew up in Star Trek 9. It almost did, though.
No, yeah.
It was bashed up pretty bad. But anyway, jumping to our next news story, Star Trek 8. God damn it, my brain. Star Wars 8.
And the fan wars begin.
I
don't normally do this, Aristotle. Trey does all this. I'm not used to having to do transitions, you know.
You're doing great. Keep going.
Thank you. Well, when Star Trek The Force Awakens hit theaters last year, this is what the article says, it ended on one of the most serious cliffhangers in recent memory. Will John Boyega's Finn be okay? Who was really wondering that? Okay.
The article he was says,
not since Han Solo was frozen in carbonite at the end of The Empire Strikes Back have we feared for the future of an awesome Star Wars character like this. I can't be honest, I didn't really give a second's thought to what happens to Finn.
No.
I didn't think anyone was really that concerned about Finn. We're like, he'll be fine.
Taking a nap. Just napping at the end.
He was friend-zoned by Rey. He was kissed on the forehead. She went off, and he's going to be fine.
Yeah, everyone's more worried about who Rey's related to.
The accursed friend zone coma.
I would much rather friend zone coma. I'd much rather her be not related to anybody and just introduce us to a whole new aspect of the Star Wars universe. That would be cool if they could actually
to the choir there.
Yeah. I don't want her to be related to anyone either. I actually like the idea that Snoke and Kylo were trying to clone Vader, and she's a Vader clone that accidentally came out as female. So Snoke is like, "Oh, destroy it," and then Kylo's like, "I kind of feel bad. I'll just dump her on this planet over here," sort of thing. So she's kind of like a Vader clone.
Interesting. I hadn't
She's
heard
Lady
that
Vader. See, I'd rather that. That way she doesn't really have a father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
but anyway, continuing with this news story.
Well, people always they argue. They say, well, Star Wars, the episodic adventure, is about the Skywalker clan. So we already have a third generation of Skywalker in Kylo Ren. So we don't need any other relatives to the Skywalkers. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, Star Wars is too inbred. Everyone's related to everyone.
Yeah.
Time to finally look somewhere else for relatives.
It's a huge galaxy. How can you keep running into your brother and your father and your sister?
That's right.
Seriously.
Well, the director for Episode 8, Rian Johnson, has spoke about Finn's fate, and he said this. He said, "We did at some point joke around saying that it would be great to just have Finn stay in a coma for the entire movie, and we just keep cutting back to him." He said,
that would be hilarious.
He said it would be great if each time you cut back to Finn, you have
He's
him
in a back to tank.
uttering some nonsense in some unconscious state. And at no point in the entire film does he actually do anything.
And yet John Boyega will still get paid a seven-figure
He was still
salary.
getting exactly
Like,
easiest
you
job
come
ever.
back in the middle of a lightsaber battle and he's just like, bananas.
I guess
nothing.
someone needs to like do a fan edit of episode 8 where every so often like Rey is riding on Mark Hamill's back as they do Yoda style training, then it cuts to Finn just laying there, then it cuts to him in Pacific Rim 2 fighting Jaegers and fighting kaiju and everything, and then it just cuts back to him going, cancel the apocalypse. Then that's just episode 8. It's Pacific Rim 2 meets Star Wars 8. That's a new fan edit.
Is Pacific Rim 2 like part of his morphine-induced dreams?
It's kind of like how
I'm on
Titanic
board.
is a,
I'm totally
kinda
on
how
board.
Titanic is a prequel to Inception. Because in Inception, DiCaprio winds up on the beach, and Pacific Rim 2 is basically the fever dreams of FN 2187.
Totally.
Let's do this. Hollywood, $200 million, please.
Yeah, come on, you're remaking Ben-Hur. You've had stupider ideas.
Right.
Okay, well, final news story. Will Ghostbusters 2 happen? One Sony executives says this. He
Did
says
it already?
According to Ryan Bruder, president of the world distribution at Sony, the Ghostbusters franchise isn't going anywhere, and the next movie is coming. It's really only a question of when. He said, "The Ghostbusters world is alive and well. I expect Ghostbusters to become an important brand and franchise. While nothing has been officially announced yet, there's no doubt in my mind it will happen." Well, if history has proven anything, it's that Sony executives know exactly the correct course to take when it comes to big name franchises. Just take a look at Spider-Man. They did such a great job. And James Bond, did they ever really own that? I don't know, probably not. Speaking of which, Ghostbusters has been overtaken by Secret Life of Pets at the box office. It says the movie's $46 million opening narrowly missed taking the number one spot, which isn't a rousing start when compared to the chunky $140 million budget and substantial marketing costs. And there's a reasonable expectation for the movie to at least break even. Now, this was said before Ghostbusters got banned in China, which it just has, which is a serious blow. Because if
That's
they're now hoping to break even and then China says, no, we're banning you, you're in trouble. So, did the online hate take down Ghostbusters? Probably not, but China might have.
Good, China. You reject Deadpool, you reject Ghostbusters.
They reject Deadpool.
Yeah, because it was too, like, the language was too harsh. It was too gratuitous. Yeah. Deadpool probably would have overtaken Batman v Superman at the worldwide box office if it hadn't been banned in China.
Really? Oh, man.
Probably.
Well, apparently the reason they're banning Ghostbusters in China is because the censorship board in China is very sensitive towards, like, ghosts and occult and supernatural stuff, and for some reason, it must be a cultural thing in China, because, like, the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie got banned for similar reasons, and I think others have too, and I don't know, maybe it's part of the Taoist belief or something, but yeah, they're very sensitive about that stuff and they don't like it. So that's a pretty big blow for Ghostbusters.
It's also the fact that Ghostbusters 1 or Ghostbusters 2 never actually got released in China. Like, Ghostbusters is not a big franchise there, so
neither
it
did
doesn't make a lot.
Terminators, but Terminator Genesis did well. Maybe that's
I know. It did amazingly over there. Incidentally, the title that they're trying to market, that they were trying to market Ghostbusters over in China, so that they could sort of get around that occult fear, was Superpower Dare to Die Team. That's what they translated. Superpower Dare to Die Team. Yeah,
that sounds like the best manga never made.
See, they should have filmed like a slightly different version where they're saying they're not ghosts, they're like aliens from another dimension. Then you could get away with it. You know, but I think in China, like, they're very big on the whole thing of the spirit of your ancestors is watching you. So I guess Ghostbusters for them would be, we're going to bust these ghosts. And it's like, no, that's Grandma. So, yeah, I guess they wouldn't like that.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
But yeah, people have been pointing to Ghostbusters less than stellar opening and saying, "See, it's bombed. It's done terribly." It's not bombed. I'm not going to say it's done amazingly well. No, I'm not going to say it's done amazingly well, but it opened better than The Legend of Tarzan. Legend of Tarzan had a bigger budget. Ghostbusters cost about $40-50 million less than Tarzan, and nobody said that Tarzan bombed. BFG opened at what, 17 million? That was a bomb for BFG.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters has not performed the way Sony would like it to, but it's not flopped. And losing to Secret Life of Pets, which has had had the biggest original animated opening in box office history, that's not a bad film to lose
as
to.
it sounds.
No, if
everybody
it lost
loses
to say
Pixar, not Pixar. Everyone loses to animated movies. They always do better. Yeah.
exactly, like if it lost to say Now You See Me Too, then yes, we would definitely be having an issue. But Secret Life of Pets, it's not a massive blow to Ghostbusters, and I think that the international box office is going to make up the rest of the slack. Obviously not China, but it's opened big in the UK. It's done well in Russia, I'm told. So I think a sequel's likely.
I think it'll break even, but they won't bother making a sequel.
I think they'll make a sequel because Sony needs franchises. They're about to lose James Bond. They are counting on Harry Potter being $1 billion thing. They've lost Spider-Man. They need sequels, and they're going to fast-track Ghostbusters as quickly as possible if it is at least profitable for them. It doesn't have to be a big profit, but Sony need hits.
Well, they need to exploit their properties for sure, and that's what I think they're going to do.
But that's the interesting thing, is they would have that if they had listened to fans, but they haven't. Like, nobody wanted a reboot of Spider-Man. Everybody wanted Spider-Man 4, but they didn't want to do it, and they rebooted it, and we all know what ended up happening. Back when they had the Ghostbusters 3 script that Dan Aykroyd wrote, everybody wanted to see that, but Sony didn't want to do it. And eventually that went into the video game, which I haven't played, but apparently it's really good, and it became like a breakout success, which basically proves they should have made Ghostbusters 3 instead of rebooting it. They've rebooted it, and it's probably going to go the way that Spider-Man did. See, they're not listening to the fans. That's why they don't have what they want. They want a universe. If they would just listen to the fans and just not reboot things and just keep making sequels, they'd be okay, but they don't.
Now,
so hopefully they learn a lesson with this.
Give the people what they want.
Yes.
To be fair, I have a feeling I'm going to say that a lot about Ghostbusters this week, but to be fair, Bill Murray was known for being sent these Ghostbusters scripts and then shredding them before even reading them.
I've heard that,
So I have a feeling that
Dan Aykroyd script, I mean, Dan Aykroyd wrote the first two movies, didn't he?
He wouldn't.
With Harold Ramis,
Yeah, what Bill Murray would do, he'd be sent a Ghostbusters script, he wouldn't even read it, he would shred it and then send the shredded remains back to Aykroyd.
A bit of a hostile act right there. Well, for the longest time, he had a bit of a feud with Harold Ramis up until Harold Ramis's death. I mean, during filming of Groundhog Day, they sort of had a falling out, and then because Bill Murray was showing up late to set and he wasn't quite playing ball, and Harold Ramis was trying to make a movie.
Yeah. After that, he made Ghostbusters. God, he was a good filmmaker, Harold Ramis. He really was.
So good.
He was. But yeah,
sorry, go on, Aristotle. I cut you off.
Oh, no worries. Ever since then, he was very reticent to participate in the Ghostbusters sequel.
Oh.
So, but there was talk in the '90s about having like Chris Rock and Chris Farley sort of join the Ghostbusters and be, like the next generation of Ghostbusters being ushered in by the old generation. And that would have been cool. And, just have it like a Saturday Night Live alum sort of vehicle. Just keep tacking them on.
Ivan Reitman, like he was going to make the Ghostbusters 3 back then, and it was going to be a passing of the torch from the old crew to the new crew, and the new crew was going to have both men and women in the team, which sounds much better to me.
Exactly. You could probably cherry pick. If I were to do that, see that I have many opinions on the new Ghostbusters, and Kate McKinnon's character I think could have been like a part of that new team. I think personally, she could have. I just don't see why they didn't make Ghostbusters 3. They should have just made it a Ghostbusters 3 and continued it on, even though Harold Ramis isn't around, and that kind of hurts. But you got to move forward if you want to with the property.
But
if you want to make money.
If it's true that Bill Murray was so against doing another Ghostbusters that he was shredding scripts and all that, I guess then that probably adds credence to the rumor that they basically had to threaten to sue Bill Murray to get him involved in this.
Yeah.
And in the interviews, he's like, the movies, it's... these girls are real funny. They're funny. Like, he doesn't say the movie's good.
I saw
He's
that.
these girls are really funny. I really like them.
See, there are so many stories about Bill Murray in that. I know this is a tangent, but there are stories of him, like, he's virtually impossible to get a hold of unless you know somebody who knows his agent.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an actual... Yeah, well, like he has somebody. Maybe it's a friend who, or something. He has a contact who you have to know, and then they have to go through him. He has no actual. He doesn't have an address. He's kind of like a hermit, in a sense. And and then every so often he'll come out of his wherever on earth he comes out of, and he makes like a zombie land or a Jungle Book.
He does whatever he wants. Yeah, I've heard that you basically, if you want to pitch Bill Murray a script, you have to call a secret line and leave a message, and he just listens to the messages and then calls you back and chooses a script.
But that's why he's so great. You know, the planets have to be aligned just right, and then you just have to pray that he happens to be there when you call at home. And then maybe you'll get him. That's why he's so great.
Imagine if that's what the Ghostbusters was actually like. Like, if you want to get rid of a ghost in your house, you have to pray you can get hold of Bill Murray. I'd love to see that comedy sketch.
I don't know if you guys heard about this, but in the States a few years ago, Bill Murray went on a tour partying at people's houses, and if you hung a banner outside of your house that said, Bill Murray is welcome to party here, he just might show up and hang out with you guys for the night. And he did that.
True, he really did that.
He really did that. There's like photos of it, and he tweeted it. Yeah.
So we could just randomly pick a party and just show up. Everyone's like, "Hey, Bill Murray."
Right, okay, so Bill Murray is welcome on the Movie Mania podcast.
Yes,
and
indeed. Yeah, let's hang a banner.
You know, I could just get like certain sound bites of Bill Murray and just play them every now and then, and people might not know the difference because, you know, sometimes he's talkative, sometimes he's not. Be like, oh, he's just wandered away from the microphone, you know. Just don't ask him anything specific.
Bill Murray does what Bill Murray wants.
That's right.
Oh, Bill Murray, you look like you're about to sing the Bare Necessities again.
I did like him as Baloo the Bear. He was pretty good.
He was great.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shall we get
what
into
are we talking about?
Bill Murray. Just talk about Bill Murray.
Well, that's it for the news. You want to get into feature presentation?
Let's do it.
Yes.
And now, our feature presentation.
So here we are, after all this time, finally Ghostbusters 2016. We'll start off with non-spoilers from everyone. First of all, Aristotle, what did you think of the movie overall?
I was kind of
overall thoughts.
Overall, lukewarm. I mean, I laughed all the way through it, but no real gut-busting laughs, no kind of falling out of my chair. But I did find it amusing, but didn't love it. Yeah.
But I know you're a big fan of the original.
Yeah.
And you know
you don't like it.
Inside Out and Back to Front. Did you think? Sure. Do you think it would have been better if they just called it something other than Ghostbusters and say, "Oh, it's a bit of an unofficial reboot"? Because the humor,
like that Chinese title.
Yeah, like that. Because the humor was so different. Like the first one, it's really intelligent, really dry and witty and sarcastic, and this one was just like infantile.
Indeed. Yeah, I think I agree with you exactly. I think they should have just done a similar premise. They should have done like the Momster Squad or something. You know, like just like a Last Action Hero type of, or some kind of premise where, you know, like Abbott and Costello fought the Mummy. Why couldn't they just do some kind of monster fighting movie with this cast and Paul Feig and not done Ghostbusters? But it's blatant. It's a blatant reuse of rebranding of the property. So I think, you know, that's my major problem with the movie. I think it could have just done.
So you're a misogynist. Good to get that covered. Okay.
Well,
we'll
just like you said,
don't worry, we'll get there.
The original, though, you're right. Like, I felt that the original script was so well written, and Paul Feig movies are really just sort of performed in the moment, and he kind of cuts together what happens on the day, like whatever the actors or the comedians are coming up with, which is fine. There's plenty of that in the original movie, too, because you have such great talent like Bill Murray and Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, And you get the sense with the original Ghostbusters that before the camera rolled, they were like, okay, what's the angle on this scene? What's the funny comedic angle on everything that they shot in the original? And in this one, they just kind of let the camera roll and saw what happened and then cut it together.
And it's not to say there wasn't like goofy stuff in the original as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love the bit where Egon's like listening to the table at the beginning of the library, and Bill Murray goes up and starts tapping on the table, going, "Whoa," and he smacks the book down, and Egon's like, "Ah!" Like, I love that, but those were few and far between. It was just sprinkled in here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you reckon, Trilbee? What's your overall thoughts? You kind of said it last week, but.
Sorry, I'm just staring at my Blu-ray of Ghostbusters because the internet's told me that the movie is going to disappear if this one comes out.
Well, it will, you know.
No,
but see, now to the day you die, you have to draw the line between the original and the remake. Isn't that annoying? Doesn't that enrage you?
Oh no, the Blu-ray is disappearing. I better call the Ghostbusters. Actually, there is in the UK. I don't know if there's one in America. There is a number that you can. It's on phone boxes, and you can call it. And Chris Hemsworth answers the phone, and it's like a voicemail message. He's really funny in it. But anyway, yeah. It's clear that I am the one who is the defender of this movie. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say I'm not going to say it's flawless or perfect or even that it's going to make my top 10 or honorable mentions of 2016. But I had a good time with this. I really did. My expectations were I want something passable to good. I just want this to work. And it exceeded those expectations, in my opinion. I don't think it's as good as the original, because what is? But I think it's better than Ghostbusters 2. It's certainly not the worst thing to be given the Ghostbusters name. There's the Ghostbusters NES game from the 1980s, which is just the worst. But
worse than E.T. For Atari?
E.T. is pretty. It's in short bursts of terribleness. Ghostbusters is just
Wait a minute,
prolonged.
There's an E.T. video game?
Oh, it's
God,
the worst game ever.
There's a massive landfill in Texas just filled with millions and millions of unsold E.T. games.
There's a whole documentary on it. Check it out.
There is.
God.
Yeah. It's an amazing story. But
the
anyway,
only scene I imagine would translate into a video game would be when they're riding their bikes through the sky, and that's one scene in the whole movie.
That doesn't even happen in the game. You play as E.T. and you have to extend your neck upwards to get out of pits and to collect phone pieces so you can phone your spacecraft.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
That's the game. But yeah, anyway, Ghostbusters. Yeah, I think Kate McKinnon just owns the whole thing, regardless. Yeah. Like, even people who dislike the film are like, yeah, she was amazing, and so I think Chris Hemsworth was great as well.
She's the Egon ripoff, isn't she?
No,
well,
I think she's. I think she's one of the most original characters of the year. Honestly, honestly, like there's no other character I can think of in recent years quite like Holtzman, and I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, is near the end when all this stuff has happened and she has a moment. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I mean. She has a moment, and it just opens up a whole new dimension to the character, and I can't wait to see what she does next, because Kate McKinnon, regardless of this movie's box office performance, her agent, that phone is going to be ringing off the hook all weekend. I guarantee you that. Because I think she's a born movie star, and I think that Leslie Jones, it's a shame that, yes, the one black Ghostbuster is not the scientist, but she's an optimist. She's someone who's not afraid to get involved, even though she's clearly afraid of all the ghosts. Everyone else is afraid of no ghosts, but she's afraid of all the ghosts. I think she gets some really nice moments. I think the least interesting Ghostbuster is Melissa McCarthy, and it's not because she's bad. I just think that she's been better elsewhere, and she's given the least characterization. I think that the action.
Did you think that Melissa McCarthy and what's her name, the Egon ripoff,
Kristen Wiig,
essentially exactly the same characters?
I didn't think
they're
so.
Both kooky, they're both wacky, they're both goofy, they're both building. They're exactly the same.
Yeah, McCarthy was the straight man, so to speak. She was the straight woman.
No, she was goofy too. Remember when
she's
shooting her proton package?
She was the Hardy. She was the Hardy to Holtzman's Laurel. But yeah, I totally agree. I think Holtzman was the most unique character, the most defined. I felt that Melissa McCarthy, though, you know how in the original Ray and Egon would do a lot of that sort of mumbo jumbo talk, and they would talk about Tobin's spirit guide and the Tunguska thing, and it seemed real, like they knew something, that they were in on something, and we were like, oh, what are they talking about? They obviously know something. Whenever Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig did that in the movie, it never felt genuine for me. It felt like
I believed Kate McKinnon talking all the gobbledygook.
Exactly. I did too. When she was playing around with building those trap devices and talking all of the jargon, I was totally sold. I was like,
and to top it all off, we got a freaking Faraday cage.
Yeah, like she seemed to know her stuff for sure.
Yeah, and like the action, but Paul Feig's not a great action director. Like I thought there were good moments in Spy, but I think he does a good job in Ghostbusters. Like I said before we started recording, the Battle of Times Square, Kate McKinnon once again gets just an epic hero moment, and the music kicks in brilliantly. The score's not great, but I think that's an epic rendition of the Ghostbusters theme. I think the effects. This isn't. I think this movie is kind of cursed because you're talking about the Ghostbusters humor in the original film was really intellectual and really like dialogue driven, whereas this is a bit more visual, a bit more slapsticky. But if you had this movie copy the exact same formula and copy the exact same template of the original, people would say you didn't change anything. But then they changed the type of humor, and people say, oh, you changed too much. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of scenario. And I think that this movie
shouldn't remake classic movies.
No, but we have a new movies. We have a remake. We've got to deal with what we've got. And I think that there are much worse properties to remake. Because Ghostbusters has the Proton Pack, it has the Ecto-1, it has this iconography, it has Slimer. If you're going to remake something, Ghostbusters has it has the iconography to remake and update. And I think that this is one of the better updates in recent memory. It's better than RoboCop. It's better than Total Recall. And like, yeah, and there were no massive really 2 million downvote YouTube campaigns for that.
That is a low bar, but
it is a low bar.
But those movies exist,
they're all low bars, and they're all remakes of classic movies. Gee, what does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. There are good like reboots and remakes and stuff. Like Mad Max Fury Road proved last year that you can make an awesome reboot.
Technically, that's more of a sequel. So.
It's more of a sequel, but you can also classify it as a reboot because it's a different Max. It's sort of like James Bond, where every new iteration of the character is a reboot.
But it's semantics. It's a little bit different.
According to George Miller, though,
it's not really supposed to be a universe where anything really fits together. So it's kind of a freak like that. You can't really call it even a franchise properly. But anyway, let's not get sidetracked into that.
My problem with Ghostbusters, though, is like you can include all that iconography and just make it a sequel. And maybe the Ghostbusters haven't been around for the last 30 years, and they uncover the stuff. Or it's just really
exactly.
That's my disappointment. That's my disappointment.
But then the way I view it, because maybe it's different because I consider myself an award-winning filmmaker. No, but because Paul Feig said the reason he didn't do a sequel like that was because he wanted this new generation of Ghostbusters to invent their own technology, to be capable of inventing it and using it, as opposed to just inheriting it.
I want to talk about more about that in spoilers when we get to it. But
maybe you may not like that reason, but I think that's a justifiable reason. And if Paul Feig wants to go in that direction as a creator, he should be able to.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but is it really a justifiable reason? Because he's like, we get to see where the logo came from, we get to see how they designed all the stuff. They didn't do any of that in the original, and for a reason, it doesn't really matter. How did they do the logo? They just drew it. Who cares? They built the stuff off screen. It's not important. So they're focusing on all the stuff that the original movie didn't think was important to do. Even like you see in the trailer, there's the bit where they zap the dragon ghost in the middle of a concert. That's actually from the original too. There's a bit where Sigourney Weaver is doing sit-ups in front of the TV and the radio, and the radio's talking about, the Ghostbusters, they got a poltergeist at a concert and then stuck around to dance the night away. And that's all it is. But they take that and do a whole scene out of it. So it's just not that good.
What you were saying earlier about... I'll just get this one point while we're on the subject. That's something I'll agree with you on, Bandit. We didn't need to see where the logo came from. We didn't need to see where the costumes came from, because there's a scene where Leslie Jones's character says, I also got these costumes so we don't get ghost guck on us and stuff. And I said, you didn't need that. They just have the costumes. If there's one definite, almost objective problem with the film, I know film's subjective, but if there's one thing that people seem to unanimously agree on, regardless on their thoughts of the film, the fan service and the callbacks, while not all of them were badly done, I liked Bill Murray's inclusion. I liked Dan Aykroyd. Some of it just doesn't work. Like the Stay Puft inclusion, out of nowhere, doesn't fit in the context of the scene, makes no sense. And stuff
I was annoyed by that, I didn't really like that.
And I think Devon Faraci from Birth's Movies Death, he summed it up best when he said, It's amazing that this movie's got so many callbacks and fan service moments to the original that to please fanboys and such, but those same fanboys are the ones who've been rejecting this movie since day one, so why bother? And I think because Sony...
Because fanboys don't want callbacks either. That's another misconception.
They like them in moderation and when they're done with purpose. Having the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man appear in what's meant to be like an 18th century holiday float parade... That doesn't make sense in any context. It makes no sense. And because Sony, they make really good films. I actually have been doing I've been working on an article talking about great upcoming original films. A lot of them are Sony films, like Passengers. That's a Sony film, and that's coming up soon. And I'm really looking forward to that. But Sony, when it comes to their merchandising, their franchising, they make products first. They put licensed songs. They put product placement left, right, and center. Like, whenever there's a Sony movie and there's a scene in Times Square, it's only to sell product placement. Amazing Spider-Man 2, why does Electro go there? Product placement. It makes no sense.
And you pointed this out in your video too, Trilby, that even their trailers look like they've come off an assembly line. They've all got the same stuff. Like, almost all of them are like, the world's in danger, we're the only ones who could save them. You put together 5 of those trailers.
I could have gone on. I really could have gone on.
I don't think Sausage Party has that line in it yet, and... Probably not Magnificent Seven, but that looks good too, Magnificent Seven.
Actually, before we started recording, there was a Magnificent Seven trailer.
Yeah, which looks great.
I've not seen it, but it's meant to be great. But where's the backlash saying that they're all men?
Yep,
I'm joking. But yeah, that was my point. Like the callbacks, some of them worked, most of them didn't, and that's something that is probably my biggest problem with the movie.
For me, though, not that great. The developing of the technology seemed, for me, that was a waste of time. Like, I think they could have, in the original, they didn't spend so much time building the stuff. If Paul Feig wanted to prove that they invented all that stuff themselves, if that was his sole reason for making it a reboot instead of a sequel, I don't know if that's strong enough, because you could have easily had a character like Kate McKinnon's taken under the wing of Ray Stantz, and Ray, because...
Kind of like Ray and Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly. And then... He could have, she could show them some new things. She could have been like, look, check out all these new devices I built, because that's kind of what she does in this movie, and that would have worked fine in a sequel.
Exactly. That's why I don't buy that excuse that, we had to remake it because I wanted to show all these. No, you could show all that again with it being a sequel through, like you just said, or they're just upgrading the tech or something like that. The real reason he rebooted is because he just wanted to do the story he wanted to do, and he didn't care about the original movies. He didn't care about what the fans wanted. He just wanted to make something that he wanted to make, and nobody else was really interested about it.
Well, the original Ghostbusters, even though it's the first movie in the franchise, it's not an origin story. The first Ghostbusters movie, it starts with the business already established. They've not captured their first ghost yet, but they're in uniform, they're all ready to go. And I think, once again, if they'd copied that formula, if they'd said, the Ghostbusters are already pre-established, then they would have said, you're just copying the structure from the original film. I think, once again, it's a damn thing to do.
There's still so many other areas you can go with if you use your imagination, but they didn't want to. They just wanted to remake, and beat for beat, pretty much. Well, not every beat, but
I think
it's still pretty much essentially the same as the original.
I disagree.
Come up with new ideas. Like, there's bad ghosts. Surely there's good ghosts. Write a story where they're trying to get good ghosts to help them fight bad ghosts. There's lots of different things you could do. Like, they even had ideas of, like, what about ghosts of aliens or something, or ghosts of animals that have died? And I'm like, that could work. Like,
or make a whole different movie.
Some of the ghosts look like monsters, So, like, you don't have to remake the same story. Do something new with it.
Yeah. Make a different franchise. Start a new franchise.
Yeah.
Just say
we're matching together Scooby-Doo, Bridesmaids, and Ghostbusters in this thing, and everyone would be fine with it. Nobody would have a problem.
Yeah, but if they started a new franchise, you wouldn't get a $140 million budget. You wouldn't get a $46 million opening weekend. It's depressing.
That's what it's really
about. It's depressing, and I'm with you there. But that's more reflective on the state of the industry and not a problem with this film.
But Sony is
lots of people are making
notorious with that kind of thing.
They are, but Sony are making a lot of original films. Like they distributed Whiplash, original film. They're doing Passengers, which is coming soon, original film. Like Sony are not an entirely evil, unoriginal company. It's just their high budget division that goes in those realms.
You know what it is? Sony's desire to have a franchise is like Gollum with the ring. They're so possessed with this desire for a franchise that it's twisted them into this horrible thing, and it's actually sabotaging their attempts to actually make a franchise.
Yeah.
That design, remember there was all those ridiculous rumors about we're going to make an all-girls Ghostbusters, then we're going to make an all-males Ghostbusters, then we're going to cross them over in like a Marvel Avengers style thing. And we're like, that's not really what Ghostbusters is supposed to be about. That's
Wasn't
because
Channing
they failed.
Tatum attached to a Ghostbusters years ago?
Yeah, like that's why, because they wanted to build a cinematic universe. They lost their chance to do it with Spider-Man, so they thought, well, they just went rip and just took that idea and shoved it into Ghostbusters. And it's like, no, it doesn't work.
Another Ghostbusters reboot another Sony reboot recently. That was 21 Jump Street. With Sony, it can work, and I think that maybe Ghostbusters didn't need that more original differential touch. But once again, I don't think Sony are just this massive terrible thing. No, I don't think Sony are cancer. Obviously, they've done some stupid things in the lead up. Obviously, they have. They've done some stupid things in the YouTube comment section. They have a seemingly assembly line approach to their trailers. They made an Angry Birds movie 5 years too late. They made Pixels. Enough said.
But they're responsible for a lot of Adam Sandler movies.
I guess Pixels was sort of an attempt at Ghostbusters too. Also,
this was a lot like Pixels too, wasn't it?
Although it was much better than Pixels. Okay. At least the cast, at least the main characters didn't look tired and bored as hell like Adam Sandler did.
Oh. So Bandit, do you have vitriol for this movie? Do you hate Ghostbusters, or is it, or I was
kind of like, when the trailers came out and all that, I was kind of indifferent towards it until they started to have a go back at the YouTubers. Then I'm like, all right, I don't like these guys now, because you know what pisses me off? I'm sick of movie studios they love exploiting the online world. They love exploiting all the free marketing, all of that stuff. And when the online world gets behind a movie and helps to turn it into a mega hit, they love it. They lap it up. But when the online world doesn't get behind something, it's not important. They're all just a bunch of basement-dwelling trolls. Funny you don't say that when we're helping make your movie better. See, they love to pick and choose, but it just drives me crazy. I'm so sick of hearing that stereotype of basement dwellers, and especially when Sony's manufacturing that situation of misogyny in the comments that wasn't even there. It was the exception, not the rule. Their bots deleted the rule to make misogyny the new rule. And that's not how it works, Sony. You suck.
I definitely saw that. I mean, even in the last month or so, or just leading up to the movie's release, they were putting a lot of girls with proton packs, young girls in jumpsuits, and then making it about, this new Ghostbusters being mentors for little girls, which might be true, but it seemed like they were starting more and more to make it about the fact that they were all women, instead of just being it's just a Ghostbusters movie and they happen to be women. And then it was oh no, this is women empowerment. So it was which is a direct jab back at the fans, I think.
And it's also they should have Paul Feig actually had the right idea, because when I was making my videos, I thought, it'd be funny if I play a clip of Paul Feig saying something stupid, and then after it I can play Bill Murray going, "This man has no dick." But when I watched through his interviews, he didn't really say anything really horrendous. So I was like, he's actually kind of good. When I watched some of the interviews with him, on panels, they talk, what about the online reaction and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, well, look, Ghostbusters is a classic movie, so people feel protective for it. So it's understandable that people get upset and all that, but just give the movie a chance, go see it, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, he sounds good there. And he only really lashed out when people went after, legitimate trolls, went after, Melissa McCarthy, and she's his friend, so of course he's going to stick up for her. So, this was all, I think all of this was the Sony executives, not him. So I don't really think it's his fault.
I mentioned it in my editorial that there's the Tom Rothman interview with Hollywood Reporter when they said it was just after the first trailer came out, and they said, so what do you think of the backlash for Ghostbusters? And they said, I think it's amazing. Can we get the haters to say more stupid things? That's like a direct quote, basically. And this is where I stood on the issue. And a lot of people took umbrage with my editorial yesterday, my video, which I was expecting.
Yeah.
But I think
a lot of people agree with you too in the comments.
A lot of people agree. Thankfully, it's the majority, but some people seem to be missing the point. Bandit, everyone listening to this video who Aristotle, if you didn't like the film, that's fine. As long as you gave it its day in court, as long as you gave it a go and you left all your preconceptions at the door, if you gave it a chance and you didn't like it, that is absolutely fine. I like it. Many critics liked it. The critical consensus is good, even if it's not great. And it's doing okay at the box office. Not great, it's good. But what I do take umbrage with are the people who are still on at this film, who I mentioned it in my editorial, the review where the guy openly says, I never saw the film, I was sent a plot synopsis from a random stranger, and I'm going to review that in totality and talk about the film and the effects and the performances, even though I've only read a plot synopsis. And the like bar for that is like 90% likes, 10% dislikes.
I saw that,
Whereas you get people like Alicia Malone, who could be a future guest in this podcast, fingers crossed. She
love
did
you,
a
Alicia Malone.
We love you, Alicia.
Sorry for trolling you. No, I'm just kidding.
She did a review saying that the movie was, and I quote, fine.
Yeah.
She had to disable comments on that video because people were saying she's a feminazi and how she's just pandering to women and all this sexism. You get that both sides are at fault here. Like Richard Roper gave it a 1 out of 4 in his review, and people were accusing him of misogyny. People were accusing him of being sexist. Whereas I say I think it's a bit wrong that the sexist backlash is still going on, and that even if it's not a majority, even if it is a minority, it's still vocal enough to like change the conception of the film. How you get these 1-star IMDb reviews, how you get all of this, and people called me an SJW, they called me a white knight, they called me a beta male, they called me a cook, they called me all of this stuff. There's stuff on both sides here. Both sides are at fault. And
did they call you a feminazi?
They called me a feminazi.
Good, they covered all the bases. Good.
I actually got my full anti-SJW bingo card. I get a free soda now next time I go to the theatre. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So there's fault at both sides here. And like, of course, Sony was stupid.
I disagree with you. That's where I disagree with you. I don't think there is fault on both sides. I think there's fault on one side, and that's Sony. Because
I was about to say, it's terrible that Sony capitalized on the sexism. It's terrible that Sony used that to market the film because it gave more fuel to the fire. It changed the narrative to make Ghostbusters a more political or gender-charged movie than it actually would have been. Because Paul Feig movies, they are based around females. They are based around women being funny, but they're not the sole driving point. And Sony did turn the conversation into that. But they couldn't have done that if there wasn't a legitimate sexist backlash in the first place that was very vocal. And even if it wasn't the majority, I'm not saying it's the majority, but I think that there is more going on than people are willing to admit, and that's basically where I stand on it.
Well, I absolutely agree that there's definitely a sexist dimension to what having the worst.
There's always trolls, but Sony broke the cardinal rule. They tried to out-troll the internet, and you're never going to win that battle. Never. And like, even though people are like, most regular people go and say, yeah, I thought it was fine, but the thing is, as Comic Book Girl 19 pointed out, she made a good video on this, came out just a few hours ago. She said, those people go see it and they say, yeah, it was all right, it wasn't great, but it was all right. But then they forget about it. The internet won't forget. The internet will not forget this because Sony has... It's like, there's certain things you don't do. There's certain battles you can't win. You don't spit into the wind. You don't kick Superman's cape. You don't grab a tiger by the tail. You don't try to out-troll the internet. You can't win those battles. So if there is a second Ghostbusters, a sequel to this, it's going to get exactly the same treatment, and it's not going to go well. So
I think
problem with the internet, and that's why it's their fault, because everything escalated to this level because they tried to out-troll the trolls. You just have to accept that as part of the internet. It's what happens. Just ignore it and move on. Everyone knows that.
But I totally agree. The biggest problem I have, like, regardless of the sexist, I'm sure there's a fraction of people that are sexist that were trolling the video, but the people who just say that they're not going to see the movie and give everything a thumbs down and just say the movie sucks without having seen it, that's just ridiculous. It's completely absurd.
But
Like, how can
they only take that stand because Sony goes after them personally, and it becomes tribal, and it's like, I'm going to defend my side. That's what I did. I'm like, no, if you're going to attack my side, I'm going to defend my side.
Once
so it's hard to defend you're all sexist. It becomes tribal in that way.
It's one of those things. There's no real winners here, which is the most depressing thing of all. Because I
think there are. It's the trolls. The trolls always win in the end. The trolls got nothing to lose. Sony has everything to lose.
No, if you take a stand against Sony or whatever and say Sony insulted me and Sony did this and they span the narrative and they did all of this, the only real victims here are going to be people like Paul Feig and co-writer Katie Dippold and Melissa McCarthy and all of these other people who were just trying to make a good movie. The whole thing's been co-opted by both sides acting just as bad as each other. Maybe some of them did it in a much bigger and broader way, but I still think there is fault at both sides here. And the only people who really do suffer are just the people who are trying to make a movie about a franchise that they enjoy. Because the movie, I think there's heart there. It may not be a great film. Some people may not say it's good, but it's not a soulless, pandering cash-in like Pixels. But maybe Sony view it like that, but the people making it don't. The people making it are invested.
Do you really expect, Trilbee, that the internet is going to be reasonable? Like saying that the internet, asking the internet not to be unreasonable is like asking water not to be wet. It just goes with the territory. It's like the trolls is the cost of online marketing. You just got to accept that. And if you want to declare war on the trolls, then the trolls will declare war on you forever. And that's what Sony's done.
Yeah.
They're always going to have to battle this now because trolls don't forget. People who enjoy the movie will forget, but trolls won't forget.
Because what's going to happen is that if there is a Ghostbusters 2, the first trailer's going to come out, and this whole cycle will just start all over again.
Yeah.
And even if the movie is better than the original, or the marketing campaign is better, or it's just going to happen again. And I just don't want to go over this cycle again. It's depressing to watch.
Are they going to make the all-male Ghostbusters sequel or related movie? Weren't they talking to Channing Tatum or something?
I guess it depends on how much the China banning it takes a hit on the money, because obviously it's all about money at the end of the day. Plus, we'd be lying if you said this hasn't affected the box office. It has. Of course it has. But it's like... I think at the end of the day, I forgot the point I was going to make. Sorry.
At the end of the day, we just want to watch a good film.
Yeah, it's true. Are we going to remember this Ghostbusters, though? 10, 15 years from now, are we going to even remember this fiasco?
No one's going to remember it because everyone, even the reviews were like, it's not that bad. It's just mediocre. You don't remember mediocre. Can you remember who co-starred in the Total Recall remake? Who was
Firth, Kate Beckinsale.
Okay, great.
Colin Farrell, yeah.
That's just me.
Who co-starred alongside RoboCop in the remake? Nobody knows. Nobody cares.
The guy from Suicide
Shut up,
Squad.
Trilbee. You keep disrespecting
Michael Keaton, Gary Oldman.
But look, ultimately, I think if they want to keep doing stuff with Ghostbusters, they'll either have to wait maybe 5 years or do a total reskin.
Yeah. Is it going to be like Rafe Fiennes' Lawrence of Arabia? See? Nobody remembers that. It's gonna be...
That's an obscure one.
That's a really obscure
or Sam Worthington's Clash of the Titans. I do think this movie. I think this movie is better than that. I'm not going to remember it with the same adoration I do the original Ghostbusters, but I will have fond memories of my movie going experience because I did have a good time with it.
Yeah, look, I'd be lying if I said I didn't laugh at certain things. I did.
Yeah.
It's just overall people no, it was a good movie. I was like, no, it was bad. It was bad.
I feel like the jokes were
totally bad.
The jokes kept me laughing, but I felt like they were very throwaway. They weren't very memorable jokes. They were just a lot of physical comedy and just. Yeah. I mean, are we into spoilers now, or
should we go spoilers? Let's go spoilers.
Let's go spoilers.
Even that last joke at the end of the movie when Chris Hemsworth gets a sandwich knocked out of his hand and it flies back into his hand. I'm like, it's funny. But is that clever, or is it just, what is that? It's just silly. There's a lot of... the original has more... yes, this man has no dick, and just the dialogue of the original seemed better put together.
Yeah.
Because it's more written to be remembered. Whereas, like you said, Paul Feig's approach is to just let the camera roll and let improv happen. He's been talking about how the first cut of the film was like almost like over 3 hours, and there's going to be a 15-minute extended cut on Blu-ray when it comes out, which I wouldn't mind seeing. I'll be interested in seeing how that pans out.
I bet that other 15 minutes will be where they go back a third time to read YouTube comments in the movie. Ain't no bitches gonna bust no ghosts. Yeah.
Sorry about that major spoiler about Chris Hemsworth's sandwich, by the way. I know everybody.
I love that.
I did actually like the bit with the logo where he's like, the floating hot dog is implying that a ghost is carrying it. I like that bit.
Yeah, that was...
He was funny. I like Chris Hemsworth.
He was great.
But it doesn't work if every character is a complete
He's talking about the dog. He's talking about the dog and the cat. I thought that was like when he's being interviewed. He's like, I'm allergic to cats. No, my cat's a dog.
Yeah, my cat. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was some good.
But look, it's like, as well, like if this is all about feminism and female empowerment, can you please do one scene where they're not complete and total retards? Like just one. Like for God's sake. Like, when they go to bust that ghost down in the train station, it's like, here's just like one example, right? They're busting that ghost, she zaps it, she's got it, and then the train comes, right? And the ghost is on the other side of the train tracks to her, and the train's coming, and I'm like, could you turn off the proton pack? Because the train's going to drive straight through it, and that laser's going to cut off like 100 people's heads. Would you turn it off? No, she doesn't. The train goes through. Of course, there's no one on the train, but I'm like, you're a scientist. Shouldn't you at least know? Like in the originals, they're like, don't cross the streams, it'll explode. They at least knew there was some danger there, and they were terrible aims. But they didn't just recklessly shoot their lasers into a train full of people. It's like, and you got Melissa McCarthy, there's this running joke where she's constantly complaining about not getting enough of the Chinese meat in the Chinese food. And I'm like, well, why don't you try ordering something else? Huh? Why don't you try that? I'm not a scientist, but I know that. Why is this annoying me? It shouldn't be annoying. But it's like they're just idiots at all times.
I wasn't annoyed by that. I thought that was funny.
She knows there's a ghost in the house. She locks herself in the bathroom, and it creeps up the sinkhole, and it's glowing green. There's glowing green comes out the sinkhole. And what does she do? She walks up to it and shoves her face right over the front of it. Gee, really smart. Why don't you run back out the door and grab your proton pack? You know it's a ghost, you idiot. Yeah. Sorry, rant over. Sorry.
But what did you like?
I'm just here nodding my head saying you're right, but I never let it bother me.
Yeah, that didn't bother me so much. It was, just setups. And
they killed Bill Murray.
The Ghostbusters causing collateral damage.
Murray, and the cops for years, the cops are like, you threw him out the window. And they're like, no, the ghost did it. And the cops are like, no, you murdered him. What happens? Nothing. Never mentioned again.
Yes, I did.
They don't bother getting investigated for murdering someone. Why the hell did you even put it in? Nope. Never pay no attention to it. Never happened.
It might have been one of those last-minute additions where Bill Murray finally agreed to show up. He actually
That could have been one of his demands. I'll show up if you kill me so I can never, ever appear again. He might have said something like that, yeah.
For years, he didn't agree to do... Well, the only thing that he wanted to do in Ghostbusters 3 was to die in the first 15 minutes if he were to do a Ghostbusters 3. So he sort of got his wish by getting tossed out the window. But I didn't like his cameo as much as Dan Aykroyd's. I thought Dan Aykroyd's was pretty funny.
Really?
I wish they hadn't put that in the TV spot.
I noticed a couple people mentioning that, but I'm like, he's just a taxi cab. What's so great about that?
I might have a soft spot in my heart for that because I'm from New York and he just seemed like a New Yorker and it just... And the fact that he threw away the line about the... what did he say? Class 5 vaporous apparition, whatever, and then just drives off.
He's like, it's just Class 5 vaporous apparition. So.
Yeah, I ain't afraid of no ghosts, and drives off. That was good.
Well, let me ask you something, Aristotle. So you're in LA now, but you're from New York.
Yeah? Originally, yeah.
Why is it, right? Because in the 80s Ghostbusters, in this remake, everybody in the whole city is a complete idiot. But in the 80s, you get the sense that this is a smart city. Nobody in the original movie is stupid. The only one that's even close to being dumb is the accountant guy across the hall from Sigourney Weaver. And even then, he's smart. He's an accountant. He's just socially awkward. Nobody is stupid in the whole city. It's a smart city. Yet this New York presented in this Ghostbusters would have us believe that every single person in the whole city is functionally retarded and can't even string two words together. Is that just because that's this director's sense of humor, or is it a statement that maybe New York has changed over the years?
It's his sense of humor, or maybe he's just the original Ghostbusters. This New York City is just as much a character to that movie as anyone else in it,
right?
And there's so much there. In this one, that was one of my major problems too, was that they didn't really showcase New Yorker-ness.
It didn't feel like New York.
Yeah,
and I've never even been there.
Patty seemed like that moment where Patty was in the subway booth, and then the crazy guy, the main villain, shows up and says some crazy stuff to her, and then walks away. That was a believable scenario in New York City. That would happen. I was like, oh, that reminds me of home. And but as I didn't realize he was going to be the main villain. I thought it was just a little funny comic relief moment. But
I thought Charles Dance was going to be the main villain, because I was like, oh, Tyrion Lannister's in it. Well, of course he's going to be the villain. No. Totally wasted. It's this other guy. I was like, come on, you got Tyrion Lannister. Make him the bad guy.
He wasn't an idiot. He was like the one guy in the movie that wasn't an idiot.
Actually, that's true. He's the one intelligent person, yeah.
And he was reasonable as well. He was like, we're men of science, and he's talking about ghosts.
Yeah.
Paul Feig's previous films, like if you watch Spy and Bridesmaids, just that type of like supporting cast, narrative choice and the way he writes minor characters, that's just his style. That's just what he does, in a sense. So even like some of the smarter characters are stupid. Like, people are saying, "Oh, this new Ghostbusters is sexist against men," and I don't get that impression, because when we've got characters like Chris Hemsworth as Kevin, like I don't ever feel like the movie is laughing at him or making fun of him, because he's smiling along with us. He's just too dumb to know any better. And when he's there at the end and he's got the sandwich and it gets thrown away and he gets it back.
Yeah,
that's a cool guy. That's someone who you want to be friends with. He covers his eyes when something really loud happens.
Without any lenses in his glasses.
Oh, when he put his finger in his eye through the lenses, I was thinking, you're kidding me. And then they ran with the joke, and I was so like, he's great in this film. I think
he is great. And
I don't think the movie is ever like just mocking men or being sexist to men. It just so happens that some of the doubters in the movie happen to be men. We've got the mayor's assistant who is a woman. Like it's sort of like it's their gender, which could be said to all characters in this movie, is incidental. It doesn't feel like this is just a massive, like, girl power
Literally every male character in this movie is either an idiot, a coward, or a bad guy.
Except for Charles Dance.
He's a bad guy.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he fires the main character.
He's a natural skeptic.
Nice try, but no, he's a bad guy.
What about Ernie Hudson?
Who?
Ernie Hudson at the very end, yeah.
Yeah, playing Patty's uncle.
Oh, yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? He shows up, he's like, hey, I'm here, and then the credits roll, and you're like, wait, what? What?
And then after the credits start rolling, then Sigourney Weaver shows up, so that was obviously a scene that they cut.
Yeah.
I do think Sigourney Weaver as Holtzman's, like, mentor. Was it her mother? I can't remember. She was great in that role. But when Patty starts talking about an uncle,
the proper movie, it's like an end credits scene.
Yeah. But when Patty was mentioning an uncle, I was thinking
like a cut scene.
I was thinking, it's going to be Ernie Hudson. He's going to be the uncle. Why? Because there's only one black guy who can get a cameo in Ghostbusters, and it's Ernie Hudson.
Good point.
I was right.
The story synopsis leaked because of the Sony hacks, because as well, Sony, thanks for almost starting a war with North Korea, who now has nuclear weapons because of your stupid Seth Rollins movie. Really great. Good job. That story leaked, and it was basically the whole movie. But in that, it talked about the villain like possesses all the cops and leads like a dance routine throughout the movie. And it was way to get horror throughout the movie. I was like, oh, God, please don't do that. It's going to suck so much. Thankfully, they cut it, and they just put it in the end credit scene. So I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, if they actually had that in the movie, I'd be like, oh God, I think that would have been too much. I wouldn't have been able to take it.
I was really disappointed that they went with like another Stay Puft Marshmallow Man type scenario where choose your destroyer. and then it's just the Ghostbusters logo. I kind of was taken out of the movie as soon as it turned into a cartoon, and it was just a cartoon on.
Yeah.
I was like, what are they doing? And then they just went Stay Puffed on us and did the same ending. Cop
Shot
out.
him in the dick. Because screw men, right? Yeah.
No,
I got a laugh out of that,
reaction,
actually.
though. Patty's reaction, like, that's where we were supposed to shoot, right? I thought that justified the moment. I thought it was really funny.
I enjoyed that part. I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
Probably because
speaking
you're an SJW, that's why.
Yeah, it's because I'm a cook, apparently, because that's the internet's new favourite word.
It
Yeah,
represents
that's
the
right.
neutering of
Conservative.
Ghostbusters, the literal neutering of Ghostbusters, that moment.
More like the castration, but not in a bad way.
Can we talk
a good
about that villain
castration.
too? Can we, like,
Yeah,
why was he so powerful? Because Zool and Gozer, they're powerful because they're gods, right? Vigo in the second one, he was like a warlock as a human, so he was like a magician. Then when he dies, he becomes a ghost. Why the hell was that nerd so powerful? He was like
Yeah. He had
Gozer
no
level of power. Why? Was he sapping strength from all the other ghosts? Or did they ever mention that? Or is it just one of those things you're not supposed to ask?
Maybe he just had a vision of the future and then built that future. I don't know. He didn't seem. He wasn't possessed by anybody. He didn't seem to be. Yeah, you're right.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things that I sort of ignored and just put it in the back of my mind, because when you're dealing with things like ghosts and the supernatural, no explanation is going to be good enough. It's just it's one of those unknown things that you can't really understand. Like, maybe that's just me giving the movie too many favors, but I think the villain, I understand what they were trying to do. How he's just sort of meant to be the cast out nerd who just feels rejected by society, and he's trying to save all of the ghosts who feel the same way.
Also
I get where they were
known as
going.
Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But it's like it was better than Electro, although once again that is a low bar. But I think they were going in an interesting direction with that. But then he dies, and then the character arc is just never completed or fulfilled. It just felt like it was half abandoned.
Let's actually try to figure out his plan. His plan is to they stop him from turning on that machine. And that machine is what opens up the portal to the ghost world or whatever it is. They stop him from doing that, so he kills himself. But he must have killed himself knowing he'll come back with the power of possessing people so that he could come back in possessed form and finish it and turn it on. How the hell did he know he would have the power to possess people?
What's the name of that movie? I can't remember what it is. It's when these characters... it's in Casper. It's in the Casper movie when they kill each other so they can become ghosts and become even more powerful. Because the guy,
how did he know that? If it was like in Ghostbusters 2, if he's like talking to Vigo in the painting, and Vigo tells him, kill yourself and I'll make sure you come back with the ghost, then it would make sense. But I don't know. Why did he do it?
He had a book of elaborate drawings, so he must have known what was going to happen.
Maybe he read it in a book. I don't know.
Well, that's another one. That's another one of major problems. Is that in the original, you really kind of buy into what Egon and Ray are saying. You're like, oh, there's some history there. There's some story there. They actually know about something, and things are starting to pop up, and they're cluing us in that there's a history here about Zool and the coming of Gozer.
Yeah,
and
they made a whole backstory for that building.
Yeah,
and the way it was built and the cult around it, and that even though you never see it, you're like, okay, I understand what's going on here. We could have done with a little bit of that for this guy.
They tried to do that with the ley lines. They had the ley lines in this one over Manhattan, and they intersected, and they sort of were trying to do that same thing.
He's going to become the most powerful ghost ever. And why does he even want to possess physical form? Doesn't that make him weaker than if he's not in physical form?
I know. That's how they beat him.
Or did he do it because he knew they wouldn't shoot him with the proton packs if he's in that body? Or why didn't he just turn the machine on in ghost form? That can move things around. So many questions.
You're asking too many questions.
But I still really like the movie. No, they have I think
I thought it was fun. I thought
why were there ghost balloons? Why?
The ghost balloons were fine. It was just when Stay Puft showed up, it just didn't make sense because it's meant to be like...
Maybe the balloons were possessed in the same kind of way the mannequin was possessed.
Maybe. Yeah. But because there's also when the ghost from underneath from the subway comes back, he came back with all of the electrical gear on him. So there's clearly more than just bodies coming back. They're bringing stuff with them. But I think that some of the ghosts looked really cool. Like I think the one that appears and vomits on Kristen Wiig, I think that looked pretty like I think that looked cool in its own sort of style. Obviously, it's not trying to ape the original style of like the librarian from the first Ghostbusters, but it's its own thing and it makes sense in its own aesthetic. I like the aesthetic of this new Ghostbusters film, even if it is different from the original one. Different's not necessarily bad.
They were legit scary at times too.
Yeah, the one in the subway looked really cool. How it was just like crackling with electricity and the red eyes, and I think the balloons looked really cool. And although then you just get the Ghostbusters logo at the end, and it's pretty stupid. So and then he becomes
Slimer?
a 2D.
I think that's probably the worst Slimer has ever looked.
Yes, I agree. He was very cartoony.
Yeah. He doesn't look that great in the second Ghostbusters. He looks best in the first, but that was the CG was the worst one.
Oh, I totally agree.
Because
and he's making out with the female Slimer. That was that was uncalled for.
Oh God, no. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Zool. No. Sorry.
I like that he was driving around in the that he did steal the Ecto-1. I thought that was pretty funny. But what do you guys think about this? The post-credit scene when Patty hears Zool on the tape. Did you guys stick around for that?
That seemed really. That was just another throwback that wasn't really needed. Like if I want I want there to be a sequel to this Ghostbusters film. Because I want this cast to sort of hit the ground running straight away. I want all four of these Ghostbusters to just get straight into a new adventure because I enjoy their camaraderie and their chemistry so much. I just don't want them retreading original stories that have been done before.
Yeah,
like Star Trek Into Darkness.
Exactly.
Or Star Trek Into Dumbness, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
But was that
movie is
recording
tough.
in the end credit scene that Patty was listening to? Was that a recording that they picked up from the Ecto-1 as it was going into the portal, or was it from somewhere else?
I think that's from somewhere else.
Yeah, they were listening to old recordings. Do you look?
Because I kind of see that. If it's a recording from inside the portal, then that would indicate that they opened something up and they're responsible for Zool showing up, which would be good, but I guess not. So yeah.
See, I think now that's. I'm wondering.
That's Dawn of Justice level trailer, teasers for upcoming things,
Well, they could. I'm wondering if Sony could use this. They're not going to do this, but they could possibly use that to tie it into the old Ghostbusters. Because technically, Gozer is an interdimensional being, to borrow something from Indiana Jones. And when the original Ghostbusters first confront Gozer, they say, please go to your nearest convenient parallel dimension.
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering, place of origin or the nearest convenient parallel dimension. Thanks, Ray. That's really going to work.
Yeah, go get her, Ray. But that's a great, way that they can sort of tie the two universes together. It's not a great way. It is a way to tie the universes together. But I mean,
but if
there's
that's
an
their
opportunity
plan,
there.
they should have saved the original cast for the second movie then.
Yes, or they could
Obviously
just
not
be this.
Harold Ramis,
they could just be that dimension's version of those people, or whatever however they want to play it. But they won't play it in any smart way, I'm sure, unless they just sell everything to Disney and let Marvel take over.
Also, the ghosts in this kill people. They don't kill people in like either of the original Ghostbusters movies.
They just bother. Yeah, they just bug
they'll
them.
like slime you or throw you across a room or mess up your house, but they don't kill people.
Yeah.
And the Ghostbusters don't kill ghosts either, but these ones do kill ghosts. Which is stupid because they're already dead.
I think that was like a sort of a misreading of the material on Paul Feig's part, because that was really weird that they would shoot them with the proton packs and part of their body would explode off. It didn't. The whole point was to just trap them and contain them.
Because they've got the montage where they show all of the new equipment that Holtzman has come up with. The proton packs, from what I could gather in the movie, what they do is very consistent. They're more used to throw around and lasso and maneuver ghosts so they can capture them or throw them and stuff. But the other weapons, like the ghost chipper and the gauntlets, those are ones like more offensive weaponry. And I appreciated the variety in the action sequence and how from what I could tell from memory, it did stay consistent. And I think those gauntlets were awesome. When Melissa McCarthy starts punching the ghosts, I thought that was really cool.
Well, I mean, it does open up the question, though, that the original Ghostbusters wisely avoided, which is, if you kill a ghost, where does the ghost go? Wouldn't it just reappear again?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or maybe they just turn into slime and then they go back to the other...
Apparently you can bust a ghost by stabbing it with a Swiss Army knife.
It's a balloon.
That's true.
It wasn't even a proton Swiss Army knife.
A proton Swiss Army knife.
But so what if it's a balloon? It's possessed.
I think what's strange is that whenever that balloon moment is put in the trailers and TV spots, they always have Leslie Jones's line "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!" Whereas the actual funny line is when Holtzman says, "This is exactly how I pictured my death."
Yeah.
Why don't they put that in the trailer? I know obviously you don't put all of the jokes in the trailer, but when that is the one joke from that scene, you kind of put that one in. But speaking of Leslie Jones, I just briefly glanced on Twitter because I'm just a glutton for punishment. And Leslie Jones has literally spent the last 3 hours on Twitter retweeting all of the racist tweets she's getting during the 3-hour period.
Oh, wow.
And she is literally getting dozens of tweets a minute just of pure racism. This is just the worst.
There are racists out there.
Nobody's ever
disputing that there are racists out there.
I'm not
there
saying
are trolls. There are racists.
I know that. I'm not saying there isn't. I just looked on Twitter and just thought, well, that's enough of Twitter for now. That's enough of Twitter for one lifetime.
Yeah, look, I do feel sorry for her because feeling upset that she's in the movie really doesn't make sense because, we've never had a black guy in Ghostbusters before. Oh.
And the marketing did her no favours because the whole sassy black chick stereotype stuff is almost all of that's in the trailers. But I liked her optimism in the movie. I liked her first scene when she's trying to make conversation with the New Yorkers on the subway, and she gives the crazy guy the benefit of the doubt and gives him a smile because it's her job. I like that approach to her.
But her character was kind of racist as well. She was so ghetto that it was almost to the point of actual racial stereotyping in itself. So, really.
Well, apparently,
but I guess that's funny, right?
What was originally going to happen was that Melissa McCarthy was meant to be playing Leslie Jones's character. And then they decided to change Melissa into the straight woman of the team, and then they brought in Leslie Jones to replace her. That was apparently what happened.
Okay.
So that would have been a very different movie, probably a very different reaction to the trailers. Yeah. But yeah, I like this film. This film's pretty cool.
I'm right in the middle. I'm right in the middle between.
Obviously, I'm not going to say this is an amazing 5-star film, but this movie and Deadpool are the films where I've laughed most in a movie theater in 2016. I don't know if it's better than Deadpool. I rewatched Deadpool the other day, and I literally did just turn my brain off for 20 minutes when he gets put into that experimental facility. I guess my brain gets switched off for 20 minutes, because I've seen the film.
Did you see this Ghostbusters movie after a night of heavy drinking?
No, I saw it.
You're looking for some explanation as to how he could like it.
Did you partake in a certain substance before you saw it?
Ecto Cooler.
You found some Ecto Cooler.
No, I didn't. I just put meth in my popcorn.
All right,
that's what I always do.
Why did their hair turn white at the end? Was that supposed to be a reference to the line, "I've seen things that'll turn you white" or something like that? Or was it just because...
I think it's that, actually. I don't know why that happened. I think they kind of just got.
I think it's just an old wives' tale. Yeah, like an old wives' tale. If you've seen a ghost, it'll turn your hair white. Yeah. So, but that was.
Oh, gee, did you like how skillfully they woved in of how they were gonna close the portal? Oh, look, there's Slimer with our car. Hey, let's shoot it because that'll close the portal.
Yeah. I
Genius,
think
really
it worked out well because in a sort of subliminal way.
At least in the original, they weave it in earlier.
In a subliminal way, they sort of raised the stakes by, the Ghostbusters are in Times Square, they've lost their equipment, they only have what's on hand, because Slimer's stolen the Ecto-1. And it's just a subliminal way to raise the stakes, and then it's brought back in the end, in a relatively organic way to wrap up the plot.
But I agree, though, that they didn't set that up. They just said, "Oh, by the way, it happens to be the equivalent of a nuclear bomb on that. Let's blast it." And it's just,
That's kind of always been conventional Ghostbusters knowledge, though, hasn't it? That basically everything they do is unlicensed nuclear accelerator. And what you were saying, Bandit, earlier about them causing so much damage on the subway and being really irresponsible and careless, that's kind of the Ghostbusters thing. That's why Walter Peck in the original Ghostbusters is trying to get them banned. They caused an explosion.
Yeah, well, actually, he did that because he turned it off.
Yeah.
But they did almost shoot that lady in the hotel who wheels the trolley out. And they just turn around and go, "Whoa!" They shoot it.
This movie does lack an antagonist like that. There was nobody really... The bad guy was just there, and there was nobody really that was... And Dana herself...
There was the mayor from Jaws. There was that guy. That was
the mayor.
Don't ever compare me to the mayor from Jaws.
That was hilarious. But he was a dumb mayor, whereas the original mayor was kind of a smart, New York type of guy. Andy Garcia just seemed like Andy Garcia, but he was pretty funny. Although, I just think that there was no real... You had in the original Dana Barrett, who was personally involved with one of the Ghostbusters, so there's more at stake there in the end.
Yeah.
Hemsworth.
One thing I did like, though, was what it was the kind of like the character arc of Kristen Wiig's character, who originally just denounced the supernatural in order to pursue science, and then there's the great scene where she explains how she got interested in the first place and how she became friends with Melissa McCarthy, and she's like nobody would believe me about it, and I was sent to therapy, and it kind of ruined my life. And then Patty's like, "Oh, we believe you," and then Holtzman's like, "No, I need more evidence. I don't believe you." And then she's like, and then she just winks at her. And it's just such a great knowing wink. Like, no, I'm just messing with you. You're cool with me. And there's the whole idea of her trying to prove that they're legitimate. It's one reason I kind of like Bill Murray's inclusion, because they're trying to prove that they're legitimate and supernatural. It's something that's really happening that they're trying to stop and they're trying to save.
Back saying stuff that she heard all her life of, "Oh, you're a faker, you're crazy." Yes, that's why she's like, "Screw you," when she opens it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked it. And I thought there was an original angle to take the material. Obviously, this is a remake, so
that was good.
Yeah, it's a different direction, and it just shows that obviously it takes the Ghostbusters name and the branding and the iconography and stuff, but it does go in its own original direction, and I don't think it's a meritless remake.
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, even the biggest pile of horse dung is going to have a few nuggets of corn in there that are edible. So
it's not that bad.
I think it was a missed opportunity to not have Bill Murray come back as a ghost in the finale.
That would have been great. Yeah.
A Zombieland-esque cameo where he comes back as the undead. No, not again.
It did make me wonder, because Aristotle, it was your video that let me know that Slimer was James Belushi, or was it Jim Belushi? John Belushi.
John Belushi, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tribute.
I wonder if they were going to do a Harold Ramis ghost, but I guess not. That would probably be too offensive.
Yeah.
You can make a ghost of John Belushi like a horrible blob of slime and it's not offensive, but Harold Ramis, that's kind of offensive.
That would be irreverent.
People are saying that there's a Harold Ramis tribute in the movie. I never saw it, and people are saying, what is it?
There's a bust. There's like a bronze bust when Kristen Wiig's character is at university, and she kind of leaves the room and exits the doorway, and in the hallway there's a bronze bust or some type of metal of Harold Ramis's visage, and I liked that. I was like, oh, there
is it wrong that when you said that there's a bust, I thought of Chris Hemsworth's line, "Is it the boobs you don't like on the logo? Because I can make them bigger."
I can make them bigger.
No, that's perfectly reasonable.
Right. And wasn't the hotel receptionist? Wasn't that Annie Potts?
Yeah, that's
yes.
I thought that was a nice random inclusion. Like some of the callbacks worked. Like I liked Sigourney Weaver, I liked Annie Potts, I liked Bill Murray, but things like Ernie Hudson, really predictable. Stay Puft didn't work. The reason that how they came up with the logo wasn't a fan. So
no,
it's a lot of the issues I do have with them, there are some legitimate issues, especially when it comes to the villain and the third act and some of the logic. But in terms of the movie just being a pure comedy, I laughed a lot during this film, and I thought the cast were great and there was heart there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a fine comedy.
Yeah,
it's a good Scooby-Doo movie.
But it's all subjective.
It's just not a Ghostbusters movie. Yeah.
I think it's worthy of the Ghostbusters name. If Ghostbusters 2 is worthy of the Ghostbusters name, then this one certainly is.
Why does everyone bag Ghostbusters 2?
It's just not a well-constructed movie. It's great to see those guys back on screen together, and there are some good, funny jokes between them, but the movie itself is just not put together well.
Ghostbusters,
I admit the way they dispatch the villain at the end is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
It commits the cardinal sin of sequels in that it gets rid of all of the development from the first film in the first 10 minutes just so it can retread the first film. Yeah. It's like Men in Black 2. It's like Star Trek Into Darkness. It's basically, we're not advancing the franchise. We're just going to try and recapture the lightning in a bottle. And if you think that it was an uphill battle for this new creative team to recapture the original Ghostbusters feel, then even the original people couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how hard it is.
Yeah, granted, but still, all of this could have been avoided if it just wasn't a remake. Yep. You know, if they had just said, we're just setting up shop in LA instead of New York, but all the Ghostbusters are still over there in New York, but we can do our own thing here. Problem solved. Nobody would care. Nobody. But of course it had to be a remake because we need to show them building the machines. Right?
He does machines! That's what I thought of.
Yeah, look, I mean, what's everyone's ratings?
Well, I gave it 2.75 froze out of 5. I thought, it's just, it never has the highs and the lows for me that the first one does. There's not great joy when they do things. I'm like, all right, great, good for you guys. You accomplished this part, so we're going on to the next part of the movie. And it never really kicks into full gear for me. But there are consistent laughs. I laughed. I thought all of the performances are great, and I think I'll forget it in 10 years.
Yeah, it's forgettable. Well, what do you reckon, Trilbee?
Yeah, it's narratively flimsy. The villain's not great, and the callbacks are a bit obnoxious. But when it comes to just being a comedy and making me laugh and just having absolute slogs like Alice Through the Looking Glass and Independence Day Regurgence and all of these real letdown sequels and reboots and remakes, and then I walk into Ghostbusters and I have a really good time. Maybe it is just deflated expectations, but this movie was better than I thought it was going to be, and I think the cast is talented. I think that Kate McKinnon's character is, out of all 8 Ghostbusters, I think she's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. And I think she's an incredibly original creation. Like, I think I'm planning to make
Melissa McCarthy's character only skinnier.
I honestly don't. Fair enough. I just honestly don't see that. I think because she's so different. Like, I'm planning an editorial soon because people are saying Hollywood's got no original ideas, but I think what they are doing in the good remakes and sequels and reboots is incorporating really original ideas. Like Ant-Man, technically not an original film. There's nothing else like Ant-Man out there, if that makes sense.
You're right. They could have done something like that with this, but unfortunately they didn't.
Maybe, but like Kate McKinnon's character
Sorry, I'm being a jerk.
No, you are a little bit. It's okay, we love you for it. That's why you called Bandit. Here, get.
See, I got to keep up the misogynist side,
Fellas.
You've got a panda.
Break it up.
Yeah. No, I think that Holtzman is one of the most original characters to grace our screens in quite a while. And I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to be kind to the film. I genuinely believe that. And Chris Hemsworth is one of his best non-Thor roles. And I think it's got a solid aesthetic. I liked the effects. I liked the action. I think there were some really good moments in it. I'm going to go for either maybe a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Like, I think it was a really, really good time at the movies. And if you didn't like it, fair enough, as long as you gave it the time of day, as long as you gave it a chance and didn't just bash it without having seen it. Because people said, well, how am I meant to have an opinion? I'm allowed to have an opinion even though I've not seen the movie. I'm allowed to talk about the movie. I was like, that's not how it works, mate.
Can I ask you a question? Because, I noticed in your video, and again there you said the same thing of people don't like it because it's a remake. Oh, there's loads of terrible remakes. And there's loads of terrible movies. Pixels suck, blah, blah, blah. Sure, but don't you see that, the difference between, Pixels and other crap movies is those aren't stepping on something that's good? And, people can remake Ben-Hur because that was made back in the 60s. Nobody even remembers the original anymore, or very few people do. But don't you see that the reason people don't like this is because not only is it a bad movie, it's also a bad movie that's stepping on a movie that you loved and is still fresh in your mind as something that you love. Don't you see why that gets under people's skin more than just a bad movie?
Yeah. I get it. I do get it. But my response to that is twofold. I do get it, and I sympathise, but Ghostbusters is still there. The Blu-ray is still on my shelf. It's not disappeared, contrary to internet belief. But also...
Yeah, but that doesn't make it okay.
No, I know it doesn't. But what about RoboCop, Total Recall, Evil Dead? All of these other films that have been remade in the 80s, which Evil
are
Dead
all
was
terrible and everyone hated. And it's built up to a critical point where people don't want it anymore. And
Evil Dead was a very good remake. Evil Dead was a very good remake, actually.
I didn't hear you say it, but
here's the. Now I'm just talking about more the principle. RoboCop, Total Recall, they're not as good as the original, no, but there wasn't like a massive backlash. There wasn't people still down thumbing RoboCop positive reviews. There was still no one starring IMDb on Total Recall. There was nobody.
They got loads of hate. They got loads and loads of hate.
But
nearly.
not the worst hate ever.
Not even a fraction.
Only because this is pent up frustration over a long period of time, and
I would accept
decided
that.
to troll the trolls back. That's why.
I would accept that reasoning, that maybe Ghostbusters is the straw that broke the camel's back and now there will be a backlash and all reboots and remakes. But we've got Ben-Hur coming out. We've got Pete's Dragon coming out. We still have all of...
Nobody cares about Ben-Hur in the same way that nobody cared about Planet of the Apes when they remade that.
And you asked me a question, but you're not letting me answer.
Sorry.
We have all of these remakes coming out. We have all of these things still happening. And it's clear that Ghostbusters is an exception. It's clear, RoboCop is people don't remember much, and there's Clash of the Titans, and people don't regard those films as very well. But there wasn't this venom. There wasn't this livid behavior. You don't have people 2 or 3 weeks after Total Recall coming out thumbs downing and harassing critics who liked the movie, whereas you do with Ghostbusters. You don't have people like with Independence Day Resurgence. That movie did not have press screenings until the day after. Let me finish. You did not have press screenings for Independence Day Resurgence until a day after the film came out. No one talks up and no one complains. Ghostbusters has press screenings and embargoes lifted before the movie even comes out, and people are saying that was disaster for Ghostbusters. It's an exception. People obviously, if you don't like the film, or if you have any negative connotation to this film, or if you didn't expect it to be good, fair enough. But it's just something about this particular backlash. It's so much more prominent.
It's the exception in terms of how much hate it got, but it's not the exception in terms of all the other crap remakes that you just listed off. All the other crap remakes that did all these same mistakes, and because it's the latest in a long line of remakes, is why the hate is so intense. That's why the hate is so intense.
My response is exactly what I just said. I don't think what you said counts as anything. No offense.
Do you think that the very first trailer for this Ghostbusters warranted all of that backlash? Do you think it was that bad?
Not in and of itself, but as like the straw that broke the camel's back, yes, it's absolutely understandable. I don't think it was really all that surprising. It was only a matter of time until something like this happened. I think if someone decided to remake Back to the Future instead of this, Back to the Future probably would have got the same results. But it's only because this also tapped into the whole anti-feminist wave online, which is very, very strong. So it was like the perfect storm of hate. But see, the reason I don't agree with you, Trilbee, is it's like we have a chance here to finally slay this horrendous holocaust of cinema that is remakes, and for some reason you're wanting to resuscitate that rotting dead corpse. I don't understand why you want these movies around. Why do you want Hollywood to keep raping classic cinema in replacing it with this just soulless cash grab? That is all it is. I mean, surely you can see that. Why do you want more of that?
I don't think that Ghostbusters...
Shouldn't cinema be art that actually explores new things, not just shameless cash grabs?
As an award-winning filmmaker, I think Fair enough if you feel that way about reboots and remakes and stuff, but I think making this particular movie, The Hill in Which You Want to Die On, a film that's much better than many of the remakes that have come out. Like, I'd understand this if it was Total Recall, or if it was a genuine, absolute bomb, 1 star, 0 star. It was a $10 million opening, it performed terribly, but this has been well received. I think there are much more worthwhile causes in cinema. Like, did you see London Has Fallen? That was xenophobic pro-war propaganda.
Yeah, but
Where's
the difference is
there should be a balance.
That's a bad movie. It comes out, you see it, you forget about it. Ghostbusters is a bad movie, but it also steps on a movie you loved. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's not that bad.
I mean, in Trilbee's defense, they do.
It doesn't matter what you think, John Cena.
And what did you mean also when you said we got to purge trolls like this from the discussion, otherwise we can't have a proper discussion about it?
What I meant by that was that when you
everybody should have a voice. I think. I mean, even the trolls.
That's not a discussion. That's an echo chamber. Then you're basically saying we can't have a discussion until I get rid of everyone who doesn't agree with me.
No.
You need everyone.
Which is what Sony tried to do, and it didn't work.
It's more of the irrational hate. Like, you can't have a legitimate discussion. You can't have a legitimate discussion about the merits or the lack thereof of this movie if you haven't seen it, but you still have this venom against it. Like we were talking about Alicia Malone, people just harassing her for saying the movie was, and I'm quoting here, fine. You have Mark Kermode, British equivalent of Roger Ebert, saying the movie was okay, and that comment section is just the worst. And it's like 99% of it.
It sucks that they went after him. He's great, Kermode.
99% of that comment section isn't saying, oh, I thought the third act was a bit flimsy, I thought the villain wasn't good. It was, you're a feminazi, you're an SJW, you're a white knight defending the... You can't talk about a movie, you can't talk about art, you use that word yourself, Bandit, art, you can't talk about it unless you stop having these shallow, sight-unseen discussions.
Then why is it that when James Rolfe very politely, very clearly and with no trolling explains the reasons why he's not going to see it, and Sony comes out and goes, you're a scumbag, you're a misogynist, aren't they doing exactly the thing that you're claiming is so terrible?
Sony didn't say that, the media did, and that's so. I'm a fan of James Rolfe. I kickstarted James Rolfe,
so it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I kickstarted James Rolfe's movies. I've been following him since like 2006. I'm a big fan of his work, and that absolutely sucked. It like I said, there's fault on both sides. It is the I don't even know what you'd call it. I don't want to say like militant feminists side, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like there's fault on both sides here, absolutely. But I think there was a spark. There was a beginning to this, and the beginning was the sight unseen backlash before any trailers came out. When the announcement of an all-female
they made a terrible remake that nobody wanted. That was the beginning.
It hadn't been made yet. It hadn't even started.
Since it was announced, people were like, "Oh God, they're not remaking Ghostbusters, are they? Not again."
Made. Cameras hadn't even started rolling, and yet this was all
and people already didn't like it. What does that tell you? That's why this happened.
But
and
we
Sony
were getting
made it worse by trying to troll the internet, and the internet trolling back. And it's funny because the trailer comes out. There's the backlash against the trailer. Then Sony backlashes against the backlash. Then people like me backlash against the backlash of the backlash. And then you made a video backlashing against the backlash of the backlash.
The reason I made my video was because even though the movie has come out and it's, in my opinion, it's proven itself and critics seem to like it, you still have it going on. It's still happening, and the hate hasn't changed anything. The movie's still out. People are still enjoying the film. It's being embraced by its target demographic, and it's appealing to
people. Walk out going, meh.
No, they don't. They're not trying. They're not boycotting it.
The audience score is 50% or something. And the top critics is like 70, but then when you click away from the top critics, it's about 50%. So a lot of them were just the professionals who, got served a nice plate of food when they went to their special screening, so they liked it more.
if you went on IMDb 2 months before The Dark Knight Rises came out, it was one of the highest rated movies on IMDb. You do not trust user ratings on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes because they can be skewed. Like there's even a saying on Metacritic called
and so can critic responses. Critics can get paid off. So I guess you can't trust anything, right? Just trust the box office then, and Bandit, it's not doing really all that great.
Bandit, are you saying that people who like this movie were paid by Sony?
Some of them. Obviously not all of them.
What? Because that's a massive can of worms. What?
Dude,
you're saying I was paid by Sony?
Paid off all the time. Well, not us.
What?
Obviously, they wouldn't pay us.
That never happens.
Of course it does.
It happens in video games, but not in movies.
Do you think people are... Do you think people are afraid to hate it?
Well,
do you think
I'll have to go Google it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But of course it happens. There's corruption in every industry. Of course there will be. But look,
in terms of critic reaction. Aristotle, what you were about to ask?
Oh no, I was just. Do you think people in like mainstream critics? Do you think they're afraid to hate the movie?
No, because people who are even indifferent about the movie are being called SJWs and feminazis. So, like, no matter what reaction you have to the film, you're going to have a backlash. And I think people know that. I think they're just going to be honest. Because when you're a critic and you have an audience, you just have to be honest. And that will carry you through.
Sure, but I think we got sidetracked a little bit. My point I was trying to make was, like, you're carrying on like, see, all the haters online were wrong because it's massively popular. It's not massively popular. It's mediocre.
No, I didn't say it was massively
The scores overall I know, but you're trying to carry on like, oh, despite all the hate, it's still doing really well. It's not doing really well. It's doing mediocre.
It's doing modestly well.
Yeah, so it's
a fine movie, and it's just doing fine.
It's a fine movie that is not worthy of this continued backlash. That's the main point. Fair enough if you had your concerns before the movie came out, but if you haven't even seen the film and you're still going on message boards and you
have an agenda.
That's the point. That's the point we'll have to agree to disagree on, because you feel it's not justified. I feel it is justified because of an ongoing problem with remakes.
Right. So
that's where we'll have to agree to disagree.
Final question on this topic, because we're clearly just going around in circles. Right. So you think it's okay to go on a review where the guy says, I've not seen the movie, here's a review, I hate the movie. But you go onto a critic's review of someone who has seen the movie, says it was okay, and then you should just hate that review. Are you saying that's okay?
Well, I haven't actually seen the video where the guy's saying, I haven't seen the movie yet, but no, obviously that's not okay.
I'm on.
But then what I would counter with you, if you put a video out on your YouTube channel, all three of us are YouTubers here, if we make a video and we put it out, and it doesn't have the response that we think, it doesn't resonate with the fans in the same way that we think, do you then go out and say, well, it's all of your fault, fans. You must all be some kind of bigots because you don't like my video. It couldn't possibly be that I've misread what you, as my audience, want. Do you think that's okay? Because that's essentially what Sony did.
Hello?
I do not think that's okay.
All right.
I think you just let the product speak for itself. And if people don't like it, they don't like it.
Disagree, and I think we're at about the 2-hour mark.
Bandit, what was your point? That my Skype cut out for like 20 seconds.
I don't have to say that all again.
Sorry, but the Skype cut off for like 20 seconds.
All right, well, I just basically said, well, do you think it's okay that that when people don't respond to the trailer, Sony basically trolls them?
No, and I'm very adamant that
if it's wrong for the audience to troll reviewers that give it a positive review, it's wrong for Sony to troll the audience for not liking the trailer.
Two wrongs don't make a right here.
Yeah, but only one side is supposed to be professional. The internet is just going to do what it does. It doesn't have to follow a code of conduct. It has no skin in the game.
You put something out there and you let it speak for itself, and the people will judge it how they judge it. And you just, I agree.
Yeah,
like
not according
the fact
to
that
Sony, they blame the audience if people.
Yeah, they censored the comments and they fired back, which again is a kind of a fatal mistake.
That's why they deserve a bit of tanning of the hide, I reckon.
Yeah, they absolutely do deserve a tanning of the hide. But I'm the type of person who
they're a bunch of clowns. Like they really need to take a good, long, solid look at themselves and really get it together.
But in this case, and many examples, I'm going to sympathize with the people who just wanted to make a movie, and I want their product to speak for itself. I don't want Sony's product to speak for itself. I want Paul Feig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, Kirsten Wiig, Katie Dippold is the co-writer. I want them to make a movie and for them to prove its worth, and they did. And I'm going to put all of the marketing and the backlash behind it, because Sony didn't make the movie. They just distributed and marketed it. They didn't make Ghostbusters. Paul Feig did, and I think he did a darn good job.
Well, and I agree with you on that. I also want to see them make good movies. I just don't want to see them make terrible movies that are remakes of classics. And that's what I hope Sony learns out of all this.
Yeah,
but on that same token, obviously Ghostbusters is beloved, and it seems to, resonate over the decades. But people remake all sorts of things all the time. Like there's always. This might be a bad example, but Hamlet, you go see Hamlet over and over again being remade, and there's different versions.
The Hamlet of comedies.
Magnificent Seven. This is like the 4th or 5th remake that's made. Even A Bug's Life was Magnificent Seven.
Yeah,
see,
exactly.
that's fine.
But
I
like that. I like the fact that A Bug's Life,
the last one. Yeah.
But I like that concept of taking Magnificent Seven and then reinterpreting it as A Bug's Life. So I think they could have done something like that. That's
exactly
again,
like retelling Beauty and the Beast every 15, 20, like retelling Jungle Book, retelling Cinderella. Like Disney have been doing some really good.
That's just part of storytelling. Everything is kind of, redoing certain ideas from other things. That's fine. That's why.
But Ghostbusters
soulless
is the exception.
remakes like this are creatively bankrupt, and I just don't like seeing them.
I think the studio is soulless, but I don't think the movie is.
Well, I don't know. We never know. We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Well, we never know what's going on in Paul Feig's heart, whether he really cares about Ghostbusters. This could have been a script he had lying around for something else.
Right.
And then they're just like, hey, make a Ghostbusters. So he's like, all right, I'll just shove it in somehow.
Because you mentioned that Paul Feig interview earlier where he seemed like a really reasonable, nice guy who wanted the fans to give it a chance.
Yeah, well, he was saying all the right things. But
it's his movie I want to see. It's not Sony's, it's his movie, and that's how I'm approaching it.
Well, I want to see a Ghostbusters movie if it's called Ghostbusters, not Scooby-Doo.
But this one was called Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
We should wrap it up.
Maybe we should.
We should wrap it up, yeah. All right, so listen to questions.
The question is, who are you going to call? The original Ghostbusters or this Ghostbusters? I say the
original. I would say I've rewatched the original.
Can I replace Dan Aykroyd with Kate McKinnon?
Huh? Well.
Can I and then call that team?
You love her, yeah.
She is good in the. I agree. I agree with Trilbee that she is good in this movie. She definitely brings something original to the screen. And I didn't get her character in the trailers, but in the movie, I was sold. I thought she was.
I want her Funko Pop. Her merchandise is really cheap at the moment, so I can get a good deal.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Right, we've got a question from John Constantine. With Ghostbusters 2016 getting positive reviews, what has been the most misleading trailer for a movie you have ever seen? Either bad trailer for a good movie or good trailer for a bad movie. My go-to example for this, in terms of movies I thought were going to be terrible going in and then really, really liked, is Paddington. Paddington from like a year or two ago, because there's that first trailer where Paddington's at the bathroom sink, and then he sticks the toothbrush in his ears, and it's all like gross out humor, and then he's in the bath, and he just goes down the stairs. I just saw that and thought, nope, that's not Paddington.
Yeah.
That's just pandering. It's just Alvin and the Chipmunksing this character, and it was so depressing because I saw this beautiful poster where it's like Paddington has got his back to the camera in that sort of poster cliche, but he's looking at a sunset outside of an English railway station, and it's a gorgeous poster, and Colin Firth was attached to voice Paddington, but then he dropped out and was replaced with Ben Whishaw, and I thought the movie was doomed. I thought it was going to be terrible. I went in prepared to hate it, and I loved it. I was really humbled by it. It was a really good film, and I own it on Blu-ray. It's a great family film, and it just shows it just shows that a bad trailer doesn't mean a bad movie, or vice versa. You can be misled, like Batman v Superman and stuff like that. So that's my go-to example. What about you two?
I have a pretty obvious one, having only about 2 minutes to think about it, but The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace trailer looked amazing. It looked like it was going to be the greatest movie ever made.
Every generation
it
has a legend.
And it ends with Darth Maul and the double-ended lightsaber. I've never seen anything like that.
Sorry.
Right?
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Right?
That's the epicness.
No, that's beautiful. It's adding to the drama of this. But yeah, and then 30 seconds into reading that scroll, I was like, what? The Trade Federation, what's going up? Blockade? Yes. What's happening now? Uh-oh. And I was looking around thinking, is this kid annoying anyone else? This lizard dude, Jar Jar, is really annoying. Is anyone else annoyed by this? But yeah, that movie just nosedived like 20 minutes into it. I mean, 30 seconds into it, really.
You got to be careful. There's a lot of millennials that grew up, that was their first exposure to Star Wars, so they actually and they're getting at the age where they're on the internet more, so they'll argue against you if you say bad stuff about the prequels.
No, that's true. So. But a lot of millennials, I guess, just slightly younger children, they seem to, their trilogy is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and not so much the Star Wars trilogy from back in the late 70s. And that's what I've discovered. And they're always like, yeah, why are you guys so mad about the prequels? It's, whatever. But of course.
And that's when you go, you weren't there. You don't
weren't there, man. So Return of the Jedi in the theater. I like those kids.
I've seen stuff. Then I saw it again in 3D.
Yeah, then
you don't understand how amazing it was to see Princess Leia in metal bikinis. And they're like, no, we have the internet. That's nothing compared to what we see. On that note, I've got one where the trailer looked real good, but the movie sucked, and that's Superman Returns. The trailers for that seemed really cool, because they took the only two interesting parts in the movie, which is him trying to stop that plane from crashing and him getting shot in the eye. And it's got all these scenes of him flying around. He's like, grabs the wing of the plane and it breaks off and it flies back, and then he goes down, he smashes through it and he gets it. And the voiceover's like, he's stronger, he's faster. And he's like zipping around, and the guy pulls out the gun and he aims it and he shoots it, and the bullet like crashes on his eye, and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. No, it really wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just him flying around, using his X-ray vision to spy on his ex-girlfriend, who is now happily married with a man and a kid, and he's trying to bust up the family unit so he can get another shot at that Lois Lane poon. He's a terrible guy. He's like, I impregnated you, then erased your memory and disappeared off to the other side of the galaxy. Now I'm going to come back and destroy your life and sabotage your relationship. I'm a good guy, everyone.
Because that trailer was Superman in a post CGI era, and they really utilized it for that marketing campaign. It felt grandiose and big, like Man of Steel trailers. Those looked so much more complex and much more moving and emotional than the movie turned out to be. Even though I am a defender of Man of Steel, those trailers really the movie sold those trailers short.
Almost a work of art. They were. Some of those trailers were really amazing.
I love Warner Brothers trailers because they tend to put like the movie score into the trailer. Like Mad Max Fury Road, a lot of that movie's music is in the trailer as opposed to just trailer music. Like a lot of the DC movies, they have actual Hans Zimmer music in those trailers, and it really does help to make them feel bigger and more grandiose.
Absolutely. All right, next question. Okay, with Warner Brothers continuing the world of Harry Potter with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, do you think the London stage play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child will be made into a movie? That's from Dean Jones. So you're the Harry Potter fan out of us, aren't you? Do you know Harry Potter, Aristotle?
This might be sacrilege, but I've only seen 1.5 Harry Potters. I saw the first one.
Get out!
I've seen the first one in bits, sort of loops. I caught it in the middle once, and then I caught the ending once, and then I caught the beginning at another time, and then I think I saw the third one, and the third one was pretty good, I thought. Which
third one might have been
the
best.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one, but I vow that by the end of this year, I will watch all 27 of the Harry Potter movies.
You're in for a treat.
I make the same vow.
I have to say, though, one of the worst marquees I've ever seen was for Harry Potter. So it said HP 7 PTII. If you can decipher that. That was the marquee for when Harry Potter 7 Part 2 came out. I was like, I cannot even read that. That's just code for something.
But yeah, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, we've got a big theatre production coming over the next couple of months. I don't think that'll ever be made into a movie. If it does, it'll be like in 20 years' time when the movie actors are old enough, and even then you're going to get a massive backlash because there's they've changed the race of Hermione in the play. Well, I don't say changed because in the movie it was never really, in the books it was never defined what race she was. But then you'd have an awkward, weird sidestepping of Emma Watson not being the same Hermione as the stage productions. I think they'll probably just go in new directions anyway, and it depends if the play's actually any good. We don't know yet. So it would depend on the reaction to the play, but I think I don't think it's going to happen, at least not for decades. So, but I think because Daniel Radcliffe's promoting Swiss Army Man at the moment, and for those of you who don't know, Swiss Army Man is the farting corpse movie where Daniel Radcliffe. Did I say Daniel Craig earlier? I have a feeling I might have said Daniel Craig, but Daniel Radcliffe basically plays a corpse, and Paul Dano finds him on a deserted island, and he uses his fart power and his decomposing powers to try and get off the island. And you say that Hollywood doesn't have any original ideas anymore.
Well, that's A24. A24 seems to be kind of pushing that envelope, which is nice.
Yeah. Them and STX Entertainment, those guys are doing lots of high concept original stuff. But he's promoting that film, and he said he has no plans to return to Harry Potter, but he's going to leave it open. And Radcliffe's done a really good job at differentiating his career from Harry Potter. He's done Horns, he did Swiss Army Man, he's done all these other things, and he did the Equus stage play, it's a great play. So he doesn't need to.
That's the one where he's naked. Everyone.
Yeah, when he's naked on the horsey. That one. The Farting Corpse movie, the Naked Horsey movie.
He's really pushing the envelope here. It's great.
He is. He's doing very different stuff.
I agree, though. He is differentiating himself.
And Emma Watson's in Beauty and the Beast, and Rupert Grint has not been seen alive for about 10 years, I think. But so they don't need to go back to that story, at least for a while. They can always come back in like 20, 30 years and get some of that nostalgia dollar. That's how I view it. I'm looking forward to Fantastic Beasts, though. That should be fun.
Sure. Well, I got a question here from Tiernan Hamil, who says, what films do you think would work well as TV shows? And do you have any favourites, e.g. Limitless, Hannibal, Bates Motel, etc.? Well, if you guys need some time to think of an answer, I've always thought a film that would work good as a TV series, it's not actually it's not actually a film, but I've brought this up before on the show. Red Dead Redemption is a video game. I've always thought that'd make a fantastic TV show. I would love to see that. The game split up into three distinct story modes. I thought it'd be great for 3 seasons of TV. One where he's in America, one where he's in Mexico, one where he's up in Canada. It'd be great where he's hunting down all the former members of his gang, collecting bounties on all of them to like clear his own name so he can live with his family. Really great. He meets all these colourful characters along the way. That'd be a fantastic TV show. Failing that, Warcraft was just made a movie. That'd be a good TV show. There'd be lots of different stuff you could do with that. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Is there a film you think would work good for TV, or do you have a favourite show like Limitless or Hannibal? Or
Well, I think the obvious answer is Weekend at Bernie's would make a great TV series. 11
so much
seasons
mileage
of that.
you could get out of that. It would slowly just descend into a horror as he decomposes more and more. Weekend at Bernie's.
He's just a skeleton by the 5th episode.
Isn't it amazing that they made a sequel to Weekend at Bernie's?
It is quite amazing, and that they incorporated the supernatural in a movie. The first one had nothing to do with that, and they just brought in voodoo and dancing corpses. I to this day think that's the worst movie I ever saw in the theater.
What do you reckon, Trilby?
When it comes to TV shows that already exist, I really loved the Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Ooh, yes,
yeah.
that was great.
Although that never got a resolution, which I'm still very bitter about. And there were so many like animated ones. Like you got the Ghostbusters cartoon. You got what else did you get? You got the Men in Black TV series. You got all of these things. But in terms of probably ones that I'd like to see, probably X-Men. I know it kind of cheats because that it's a comic book series and it's not based on it's not originally a film, but I think that would work really well. I think something like I was going to say maybe the Hateful Eight. I think would make a really interesting TV series. I don't know, like maybe if it like no more than 3 or 4 episodes, but because that movie is already split up into chapters, you could maybe, dare I say, make them a bit longer. That's because my mind's kind of drawing a blank at the moment for that. Come back to me later.
Haven't they? They've just come up with a Minority Report TV show that's right. Showing here in Australia. Is that showing in America and Britain?
Yes, yes. I saw something on that. How is it?
I saw the first episode. It was pretty boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never liked the movie, so I'm not interested in that at all, to be honest. I know that they're making Snatch into a TV series. That actually starts filming next week. It's like it's filming in my hometown. It's like going to be 10 episodes. It's got like a big. No, not Grimsby. It's got like a big name American cast, and I know this because I was invited to work on it, but I had other commitments. So yeah, all of this stuff. It's a big thing at the moment, like Hannibal and Bates Motel. These are meant to be really shows that I've yet to see, and I think we are in a golden age of TV where budgets are getting bigger to a point, and CGI and makeup is getting to a point where you can do great things like Terminator style effects, or like great gruesome horror stuff like in Hannibal and monsters in Penny Dreadful. You can do that on a lower budget, and especially for Netflix, who are doing like ambitious action scenes like in Daredevil. And I think that there's no longer that restraint of the $200 million movie. We can't put that on the small screen. Now you can, and really it's that the ball is in TV's court, so to speak. So that was my way of saying.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I think Hannibal was a great adaptation for TV, even though that's sort of cheating too because it's based on the books. But that was a really, really cool, engaging series that unfortunately got canceled. But it's hard to say. I mean, Star Trek's coming back to TV, and that was born on TV. So it's sort of making that transition back. But as far as a major film,
I just thought of one. This is probably just me really, really scrambling for one. But did anyone see Money Monster? That recent George Clooney, Julie Roberts film.
It rings a bell.
Jodie Foster.
Basically, the premise. Yeah, Jodie Foster directed it. Basically the premise is that George Clooney is playing this like money financial expert showman on TV, and then Jack O'Connell breaks into the studio and holds him hostage because he's lost a load of money. And I like the film, but it feels way too expensive and clean cuts for what it's meant to be. And I think it would be awesome if it was maybe like a 2 or 3 episode series where it's in real time and you are watching this hostage situation take place solely through the TV cameras. You're not cutting back to Julie Roberts in the back room. You're not cutting to outside and all of this stuff. You are just watching what is meant to be this fictional show. And I would have loved it if the movie had gone in that direction. But I think doing that for TV, doing it as maybe a web show or something, really like shoestring budget. You just need a studio and maybe like 3 or 4 actors and a hell of a good sound team.
That'd be a challenge though, because if you're telling a story, how do you show what's happening backstage? You'd have to have some of those found footage tricks where someone takes a camera from the front and wheels it round back so the audience can see what's happening in different parts.
But it would need reworking.
It'd be a challenge, but it'd be great if you could pull it off, yeah.
The idea is there, and I was just thinking of a recent example that not many people are going to consider. So Money Monster, but you'd really need to adjust the way it's shot and the aesthetic of it. But I think it could be done.
What about Reservoir Dogs? That might be an interesting, like sort of like a Men in Black type of thing.
That could work. Actually, on that, we've actually got another question because we're actually, for our listeners, because episode before this was Quentin Tarantino episode, and we didn't get to cover all the questions. There were so many, so there's a lot of Quentin Tarantino questions. One of them is from Sean Alexander. Which two characters from any two Tarantino films would you want to see in a buddy road trip movie? So you got to pick two characters from anyone in Quentin Tarantino's movie, put them in a car for a road trip movie. Now, me personally, I would like to see Hans Lander, because of course, Hans Lander, he's like one of the greatest villains, in a car with Kurt Russell's character from Hateful Eight. Because remember, Kurt Russell's character in Hateful Eight was like, you really only need to hang mean bastards, but mean bastards, you have to hang. And I'd just love to see how he gets along with Hans Lander, who's the most evil ever. Like, if they're forced to be in a car and I'd like to see Hans Lander, like, you know, weaving his web of deceit around him sort of thing. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's a good one.
Well, I'd like to see the long-awaited Vincent and Vic Vega buddy.
Oh, of
buddies.
course.
Yeah, because that was something they talked to the Vega brothers. I want to see that happen. Or you can have the two Christoph Waltz characters, the one from Django Unchained and the one from Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, I've even got the title of the series. It Takes Two to Waltz. Oh, God.
Green light.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that.
I'm really proud of that. It's one of those shows that gets greenlit on the name alone. There's not a single script made. Okay, how about, and follow me here, the series involves time travel. We need Shoshana from Inglourious Bastards with Django from Django Unchained, because they're both victims of oppression and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're persecuted, they have revenge stories. They go through time and kill all of the evil people.
Hang on, we got to pick two villains to pair them up with. How about
Hitler and DiCaprio?
No, I mean characters. Characters from Tarantino. Well, it's got to be Hans Lander again. Hans Lander.
That's right. Hitler is a character. It's valid.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd pick Kurt Russell from Death Proof to chase him because he could run them over in his car. And I don't know who else. One of the Vega brothers. I don't know. Oh dear, oh dear.
That's a good question. That's
one
of the best ones we had in a while.
Okay, here's another one. Mitchell Radford says, an exploding lasagna or a molten lava burger?
What?
That's all he says. Does he mean which one we'd prefer to eat? Obviously an exploding lasagna, because you can't eat lava.
I don't know. I like a challenge.
I don't know. You got to pick one. I'll pick exploding lasagna.
Is the lasagna still currently exploding when you're biting into it?
Could be. Let's say yes.
Okay, that sounds like... God, this guy's in a corner.
So would you rather have your face exploded or burned off with lava?
I have a feeling the lower jaw would get melted off first if we ate a molten lava burger. Like, my girlfriend's just walked into the room. She has no idea what we're on about, and she just heard me talking about molten lava burgers and exploding lasagna, and now she's just backing away quietly.
What about a disintegrating meatloaf?
Yes,
what?
I'll go with that. Disintegrating meatloaf.
You can't pick an option that's not there.
I would definitely go with the exploding lasagna, because that sounds more fun, because you could sort of run around and try to catch it in your mouth as it explodes. That's what I would do.
All right, here's a good one. Ben Smith says, would you rather fight Black Mamba, which is Uma Thurman from Kill Bill, or Jules Winfield, who is Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction?
Jules Winfield, because I feel like if he didn't have his gun, if I could disarm him, I could get him in a headlock or something. But Black Mamba, there's no chance. I have no chance of survival.
Are we talking before redemption or after redemption for Jules Winfield? Because if it's the Jules Winfield from the end in the restaurant, he wouldn't kill you. He'd let you go. But if he's guy in the apartment who's like citing you that verse and is eating your burger and drinking your soft drink, I reckon even without a gun, he'd probably like just curb stomp you into the ground or something.
I did picture Jules wearing that frumpy T-shirt, so it's probably after the redemption, I would pick that, Jules, because he just wants to walk the earth. It's peaceful.
What about before redemption? Do you reckon you'd stand a better chance fighting Samuel L. Jackson than Uma Thurman?
Yes, because she didn't kill the Crazy 88, but she maimed them. Did she kill them? Yeah, she killed a bunch of them.
Almost all of them.
Oh yeah, she left one alive, I think, and told him to go tell.
What if it's Uma Thurman with her samurai sword against Jules, who does have a gun?
Uma Thurman, I think she can block the bullets and dodge them.
She can punch out of a coffin.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: no matter who I'm going up against, I'm not winning. So it's basically, how would I rather die?
Right.
That's the real question here. So I think probably death by Uma Thurman.
Yeah, because she's more likely just to take an arm or a leg off. But if it's pre-redemption, Jules, you're dead. You're so dead.
Yeah.
He'll shoot you until there's nothing left.
Jackson's just going to sort of just throw Bible verses about. So that gives me at least chance to run away.
Well, see, I was thinking Uma Thurman because whenever Uma Thurman meets a character that's on her list that she wants to kill, there's that 30-second bit where it goes do do do
Yep.
do dan, da, da,
So you hear the music and you start running.
She's just staring forward. So as soon as she goes into that trance, you can just run away.
Yeah.
But Jules Winfield, he wouldn't let you run away.
Yeah. I think death by Uma, though, she'll just chop your head off and it'll be quick and easy.
Yeah.
Jules Winfield's going to give you a speech. You're going to know what's going to happen.
That sounds like a reality TV show, Death by Uma. And it's just, every episode is 60 ways that Uma Thurman can kill you.
5-finger death punch, all of it, yeah.
It's like when Mr. Sunday Movies did best ways for Superman to kill Batman. Left-hand karate chop. Right-hand karate chop.
Yeah, that was great.
Fill the back cave with killer bees. I don't know how, but I bet he could.
Just keep an infinite supply of bears.
Keep putting bears in every room.
Punch them into space.
Okay, is thoughts on Hamilton? Should it be adapted to screen or just left alone as a stage production? What are your favorite stage to film productions? What's Hamilton?
What is Hamilton? I was hoping.
Hamilton is the biggest Broadway show right now. It just won all of the Tonys for everything, and it's huge. It's basically a reimagining of American history, told. Do you know his name's Miranda? Something Miranda.
Emmanuel Miranda.
Yes, and he wrote it. He wrote it and composed it. And it's quite powerful. I'm not one for musical theater, but what I saw on TV at the Tonys, I found quite moving. And it's an actual musical that has good music. Because most musicals I find to just be schmaltzy and silly, but this has kind of more urban style music and more rock related tunes.
So it's a retelling of American history. Which part of American history? Or all of it? Or?
Specifically when Alexander Hamilton coming together with the forefathers, but also getting assassinated by Aaron Burr, I believe. So basically him showed basically putting down the mission statement of America and putting forth our values, and also how he ultimately gets assassinated by Aaron Burr. That's my basic understanding of that time in our history. So,
okay,
I'm sure it's a lot more in depth than that.
Huh. But it sounds like it works better as a stage play. I'm sure it's great, but it's. What do you reckon, Trilbee?
I don't know anything about Hamilton, but in regards to plays that have become films, the gold standard for me is Equus. We talked about it earlier, the Daniel Radcliffe, but there's a film from the late 70s. Richard Burton is the psychiatrist who Peter Firth plays this young teenager who gouged a load of horses' eyes out with a wooden spike or something. So he has to go into therapy, and it's basically the film is just transcribing the entire play from Peter Shaffer, and it's a great play, and it translates so well to the screen. But Richard Burton's performance I think it won a load of BAFTAs. It was an award-winning film, really low budget, but it's such a brilliant adaptation of the play. You've also got Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, which is like basically a direct lift from the play. And you got
which is 11 takes, I think. That whole entire film.
Yeah, less than a dozen, I think. But you get some musicals like Chicago, which I think is amazing. You get Oliver, which are based off the Oliver musical. And you get ones that aren't so good, like Rent, which is... It should be amazing, just like the stage show, which I was in. I was Benny, hooray. But it just seems so soulless and lifeless. And instead of turning it into an opera, they had like dialogue sequences between the songs, and just the actors just fell asleep during those scenes.
Yeah.
But Equus is the gold standard for me. And the Daniel Radcliffe show, I didn't see it, but I'm told it was very good. And it had he played Uncle Vernon in Harry Potter, Richard Griffith, I think, but he passed away a few years after the play was done. I'm told it was a really great version of the show, and I wish I'd be able to see it. But Equus, track it down. It's a really good British film.
I think, though, I think Hamilton, from what I saw, it seems to be the height of the medium for what it's in. I don't know if it'll translate well to film. I think as a live performance, it's engaging. But in a movie, it'll sort of take that staging away from how they're presenting it, and kind of like War Horse. I saw War Horse in a theater, actual production of it, and I
really want to see that.
So, the production is amazing. It's really there's something to it, and Steven Spielberg's version is okay. It's a good movie, but. I don't know which came first. Was it originally adapted to the stage?
It was originally a book by Michael Morpurgo.
Okay.
Then I can't remember if the film came before or after the stage play. Wikipedia will save the day again if you give me a moment.
But it's definitely a novel. War Horse is definitely novel to see on a stage because of the way it's presented.
The play came before the film.
Okay.
So it went from book to play to film.
Okay. But I definitely think that the play is an experience in itself, and the film is an okay, solid, good film.
Yeah, it's like The Lion King, where the stage play's got some great puppetry, and the staging of it's way more impressive than the actual story. It's one of those great spectacle experiences that you go and see. Like they're making Wicked into a film, and that's a great stage show as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the film and see if they can pull that one off. So. Yeah, Bandit, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Sorry.
Are you not a theatre lover?
Look for the next one. A couple of them are stuff we've already answered before. Look, there is one more, and I promise I won't launch into another anti-Sony rant about this one. I got a different something I want to bring up here, which is...
Okay, last question.
Don't worry, I won't go into the anti-Sony thing yet. But he says, do you think the fact that everyone can express their opinion about movies on the internet does more harm than good to the industry? Again, not going to go into all that.
Yeah.
Like, obviously that's one side of it. But I do think also that, like, something good that it does bring is before the internet, when movie studios would want to try to gauge where audiences are at, they would have to get in, like, sample groups and do, like, questionnaires and all that sort of stuff. But even then, the certain type of person that would show up to those things was not really a good representation of the audience as a whole. So I think in that way, the internet can kind of be a blessing because it's much, much easier to get a sense of what the wider terrain is. Obviously, you've got to know what opinions to filter out and sort of thing, like with the Hobbit movies. You know, everyone was really happy to get Peter Jackson back on board, not the other guy. And in retrospect, the internet was wrong about that. It should have been the other guy.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. So that's it, Del Toro, yeah. So I think as long as movie studios, I think Marvel's really good at this. They're able to sort of like know what stuff you can filter out and go, okay, that's not a good idea. But they're able to use the internet to get a gauge of what kind of stuff people like. Because as I mentioned a number of times before, for those of us on the internet, Deadpool's success, that was a surprise to everyone except us. It wasn't a surprise to us. We all knew that would happen. Yeah. I know. What do you guys think?
I think the type of person to kind of sort of to seek out places where they can put their opinion down, that might be like one extra step than most people will go. So
True.
It might be, I don't know if it does more harm than good, but I think there should be a wider, different media that people should look at to see other people's opinions, or in person, maybe if they want to do focus groups and look at the internet reaction and look at other, different people's opinions. I think there is a specific type of fan that will seek out things and comment on it.
I guess, I'm assuming, I don't really know, but I'm assuming that movie studios do a variety of different things to try to test where their audience is at. But when you think about it, I guess no matter what test they do, whether it's bringing people in a room, asking them questions, or checking out what the internet's saying, in either case, like you say, it's only people that are really into it that go that extra step to actually comment on stuff. So really, no matter what method they're using, they're only really getting a picture of what the hardcore group of movie fans would do.
Yeah.
So, it gives you a view as to whether this core group of fans will come back to see a movie once or maybe a second time. But most people who can't be bothered to post a comment are often people who just might not bother to see a movie in the cinemas. So maybe their opinion doesn't count as much anyway,
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So it's, you should listen to the people who are excited about what you're doing.
But it's really interesting to see how it's evolved over the past 10 years, because when did Snakes on a Plane come out? Was that 2006, 2007?
Yeah, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that movie its entire marketing campaign was driven by the internet and people on forums, on message boards, and they were hyped for this film, and it was just going viral and everything, and then it flopped at the box office, no one went to see it. Flash forward 10 years later.
It is a cult classic now, though. It is a cult classic.
But you flash forward 10 years later, and now Deadpool is being made because the test footage leaked and the internet responded.
Right,
it's a complete shift in the dynamic, and as someone who. Yeah, and as somebody who's hoping to get into the industry at some point, if it's not for the internet, the little guy wouldn't be able to have a way to get his films in. You've got Amazon Prime and Netflix, and you've got all these means of digital distribution. You've got online award festivals, you've got Vimeo, you've got YouTube, you've got all of this stuff for much smaller people to get their nose into the industry. And I think using the internet in that way is a great force for good in terms of the medium, because if you just get $200 million blockbusters in the multiplex every week, that's just a stagnant industry. But when you do have all of this variety thanks to the internet, with you do get what's the name of that new Netflix series, that Stranger Things? You're not going to get that in movie theaters. You're going to get that. You weren't going to get that on TV. You get that online. You get it. You get all this different type of entertainment and all the variety that comes with it. And in regards to whether or not they should take into account people talking online, it's hard to tell, because when you are on comment sections and on forums, it's hard to tell what is trolling or what is legit. What are people being sarcastic? Are they joking? What's it called? Pose law, where something so ridiculous and over the top could actually be interpreted as something legitimate because it's that outrageous. There's a lot of stuff like that going on. So it's hard to gauge, but it's becoming its own market. It's becoming its own campaign and its own form of promoting movies. So it's good that Hollywood's adapting to it, but there are some forces who use it for good, like Disney and Marvel, and there are some who use it for evil. Not going to name names. So,
but I do think it's important to consider the crowd. You do need to consider the crowd. Crowdsource. For instance, this is how I crowdsource things. When I'm picking out chips, I believe you guys call them crisps. When I'm picking them out in the aisle at the store,
we call French fries crisps.
Yeah, exactly. There's if there's a ton of different flavors of one type of Dorito, or a ton of different flavors of Doritos, I look for the one that has the fewest left available, because I know that that's the best tasting Dorito. I crowdsource it. Try it.
That's an interesting way of gauging it.
Yeah, but it isn't.
Isn't there something they've done studies on it? If you go to a supermarket or a shop and there's only one thing left on the shelf, people will think, "Oh, something is clearly wrong with that one. Nobody wants it." So, it's one reason why there's so much food waste, because supermarket and retailers, they don't want one product on a shelf. They have to put 50 products on a shelf to make it look plentiful, to make it look like there's a lot of it. Whereas if there's just one lettuce left in the salad section, people are going to think, what's wrong with that lettuce? And then they won't buy it.
Well, produce is a whole other thing.
It is, but I just think that's interesting that you go completely in the opposite direction. Like, I want that lettuce because lettuce is in right now, and I want to be in for the cool kids.
Exactly. Well, you know which lettuce is the best when there's only one left.
Well, it's interesting saying that as well, because like over the weekend I spent like most of the weekend, like about a day and a half, like gathering all these stats from all these different trailers, because I was trying to work out a system that maybe I could utilize in figuring out like predicting trends on YouTube and this and that, where I looked at like trailers, like how many views they've got, and then how many thumbs up and thumbs down they got, and how many comments they got, because I wanted to test this theory of like, obviously everyone knows that if a trailer gets a ton of views, that's trending. If you do a video on that topic, you get a lot of views. But I thought, well, what about if a trailer's got less views, but there's like way more interaction than you normally get? I thought, if I do a video on that, will I then get 100% of that interaction and it translate? And I like took all that data and I cross-checked it with like videos done by different YouTubers on different things. Basically, no. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter if there's more interaction.
Some really interesting.
The only thing that counts is views. If something gets a lot of views, a trailer, your video of that will correspondingly get more views. It doesn't matter whether more people comment in Sausage Party video than comment in whatever. Yeah, you will get proportion to the views. So yeah, it's a weird and wacky world where it's still trying to sort it all out. And I even went and I like compared like the box office results for different movies to see whether it's the view count correlates to the amount of box office, or whether it's the interaction in the comments, those who are more active to get involved and go see it. And again, it was just the view count was a better gauge than anything else. So maybe all this hate against Ghostbusters didn't really do anything. It doesn't seem to. Based off
online
other stuff.
Online hype can be kind of it's not indicative of a movie's success. Like even in this day and age, like Batman v Superman, I'm not saying it underperformed. It did really well at the box office, but if you just took the amount of views and the amount of hype that had online, that should have crossed $1 billion easy. Once that film came out and the reception came out and people weren't going back and watching it 2 or 3 or 4 times, that's when they realized that it wasn't going to perform the way it did. And if you go on Warner Brothers' YouTube channel right now, you go on their what's their most popular video of all time on Warner Brothers' YouTube channel. It is not a Batman v Superman trailer. It is the Suicide Squad trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that mean Suicide Squad will gross more than Batman v Superman? Probably not, but it's interesting that that's had more internet traction. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, when I compared the views to the overall box office, it matched up pretty much. Like it went Civil War, Batman v Superman, Deadpool in terms of trailer views, and the box office was pretty similar.
Yeah.
You know? So now I'm trying to work out, if, Civil War gets a certain amount of views, if that can be used as an accurate predictor of how much it will do at the box office, if I can figure out a correlation between how well it does in that first month, I should be able to...
I was imagining Bandit in front of a massive blackboard. Just bits of strings, post-it notes all over the wall. If I can
figure out those early trigger predictors in that month, I can then predict how much money that movie's going to make when it comes out, which would be a good thing to do when you get into stock trading, which is what I want to do. And I want to stock trade with certain movies... certain movie companies when movies come out. So if that works, I'll let you know.
Instead of going to Wall Street and saying sell, sell, sell when the new Ghostbusters trailer comes out, you go downvote, downvote, downvote.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's playing the likes.
So it's a weird and wacky world with the internet, but everyone's still figuring out all the dynamics of it. But yeah, it's hard to know what things on the internet filter over and affect the real world and which ones don't. So
I do like that it is leveling.
I'd get back to Pokemon Go and just play that all of the time, where real world crosses reality.
Yep, it is.
Well, I
really
do
does
believe that the internet is the engine through which change eventually happens in the real world.
Yeah. I do think it does level the playing field for especially with an example like Deadpool. That movie was made because of the internet, and that's the era we live in now. And I think it's pretty cool. I think if fans have a direct say, and then if you get a cool enough, creative enough person with a studio that's willing to back them, and they're willing to take it in a creative direction that fans approve of. I mean, I'm always looking for, like, Star Wars Episode 8. It's like, I'm excited because it's Star Wars. I'm also excited because it's Rian Johnson, and I know that he's going to take it to somewhere that maybe it hasn't been before. So that's the ideal, really. But not that that's a crowdsourced movie, but the fact that fans can actually... I do think Star Wars kind of came back because of the fan demand, though. I think Disney realized what they had there, and knew that they could.
Point. Yeah, because the fan desire for Star Wars never went away. So that's what kept that brand valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah, and because of the internet, you got Star Wars fan films. You got people able to share their droid and prop creations, and some of them even got jobs working on the new Star Wars movies as prop creators.
Yeah.
It's just
some
a
of them
whole
even
new dynamic.
Voice characters in terribly made animated fan films, like Aristotle over there.
It's a fantastic film. I love it. It's great.
And thus we come full circle.
Can you give us a bit of Qui-Gon Jinn?
It's like poetry. It's like it rhymes.
I have a very particular set of skills. It's really hard to do voices on demand.
It's like Liam Neeson is in the podcast with us.
Exactly.
I liked your Anakin voice, by the way. You still had a bit of that whiny Hayden Christensen.
I tried.
Tone to it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's Anakin, all right?
Yeah, a little bit of whininess.
Give us some Anakin
Grievous
as
was great
Liam
as well.
Neeson.
You did all the coughing too.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought that was pretty cool. I'm actually coughing a little bit now. Got a bit of a cold, so it's probably the best. But I always thought that was a nice little addition to that character. You had Darth Vader's breathing and General Grievous's coughing.
Yeah. Apparently they did. Apparently Mace Windu is the reason that he had that cough, because I think it was in was it Star Wars Rebels or one of the other cartoon series where they went back. They showed that he and Mace Windu had a fight, and Mace used like the Force to like crush his chest plate. That was the reason he had that cough. So
didn't know that.
He probably should have got that fixed, because he was coughing real bad.
Yeah. He's like, I got this terrible cough. It just won't go away. It's been years.
All right, so we'll wrap up, guys. So that was the Movie Mania episode for today. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Aristotle, where can people find you?
You can find me at Aristotle Full Throttle on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Aristotle Dreher, Dreher. And, an easy way to get to my site is AristotleFullThrottle.com. But thank you guys so much for having me. This has been awesome. I had so much fun. And I hope to have you guys on my channel at some point.
Yeah. And Trilbee, where can people find you?
Like, give me a minute. I'm just finding Aristotle's YouTube channel and doing my patented Trilbee subscribe to the guest of the podcast live. There we go.
I've already subscribed to you.
Yay, I'm your 837th subscriber.
Awesome.
And where's my medal?
Well, you already won a film award, so slow down there, buddy.
Probably polishing
I
that
don't like to
medal
brag
right
or bring it up or anything. I like to keep that relatively under wraps. But anyway, you can find my my award-winning short film on awardio.tv, The Christmas Detectives. You can find my film reviews and editorials on www.trilbee.com. That's Trilbee. You can find me on Twitter at Trilbee Reviews. You can find me on YouTube at Trilbee Reviews, and you can also follow my TV ranting stuff reviews on YouTube.
And thanks for voting, all you guys too. All you guys who went out there and voted. Really
yes, thank you for making dreams come true.
That's right. And join us next week when we talk about Star Trek Beyond, which will be.
But Bandit, where can they find you during that time? We'll miss you.
YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter is Bandit Incorporated. See you later, our Movie Maniacs. There we go.
See you guys.
See, I told you Aristotle's voice impressions are amazing, isn't it?
He's getting better.
Thank you.
Fantastic.